Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the March 10th, 2026 meeting of the Town of Chatham Select Board. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, including the use of AI note-taking apps, please notify the chair. Seeing none, pursuant to Governor Healy's March 28th, 2025 signing of Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20, until June 30th, 2027, this meeting of the Chatham Select Board is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for it in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 1-508-945-4410, conference ID 203-386-491#, or join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. While this is a live broadcast and simulcast on Chatham TV, Xfinity Channel 1072, despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide real-time access. We will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. First item of business is to establish a quorum. Ms. Davis?
Present.
Mr. Dykens?
Present.
Mr. Metters?
Present.
Mr. Smith?
Present.
And the chair is present. We have a very long meeting tonight, so we're going to proceed right into with the minutes. We have two sets of minutes. The first are the minutes of February 17th, 2026. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Any corrections? The chair has several. Page 5, second to last paragraph, which begins Finance Committee Chair Stephen Daniel, and the second line, right in the middle, the word by should be from the Finance Committee.
From the members of the Finance Committee.
Yeah. Second is on page 6. Again, this is the second to last paragraph. In the last line, it begins Brian Phillips, Chatham. In the last line of that paragraph, fourth word in should be to instead of. An increase. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's correct as it is. I'm sorry. Right. It's correct as it is. Forget that. Page 7. No, I'm sorry. Page 8. Fourth line down, the word it's the fifth line down. The word promotion should be promoting. With that, I'll take a vote. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, so those are approved. The next are the minutes of February 25th, 2026. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any corrections?
I have a couple.
Yes.
Page 11, the third paragraph down, starting with discussion return to the board. I would like to insert members, and I'll give this to you, Kath. Members stated that the town had supported prior requests from neighboring towns to expend CPA monies for the development of affordable housing projects by the same for-profit developer, and asked why the Select Board would not recommend similar support for a project in their own town. Okay. And I'll give that to you, Kath.
Okay.
And I have a nit on page 12, towns missing on the Community Preservation Historic Annual TOW meeting is town meeting. Number 3, town meeting, just an nit.
Okay. Any others? I have 3. Stuart?
After you, if I could
Okay.
go back to the 17th, sorry, I missed
right.
a sticky.
Okay. So on page 6, second line, where it says recommended that she apply, I would strike she apply and insert recommended that it be taken up closer to June 30th. Then on page 7, I'd like to add this language in the second paragraph after the word presentation, and for his successful stewardship of the school district during his time as superintendent. comma, let me read that again, and for his successful stewardship of the school district during his time as superintendent, comma, and then on page 11, I'm sorry, it's on page, yes, page 11, third line down, right at the top, strike the word citing and insert asserting. And the verb after it, I would just strike the S, asserting concern. And then finally on page 12, second paragraph, after the period, strike the period, insert a comma, and add, and about the limited 10-year period of restoration viability. And about the limited 10-year period of restoration viability. Those are all I have. With that, I'll ask for, Stuart, yours is on the prior one, right?
Yes, if you
Okay.
don't. Yeah.
So I'll ask for a vote on this. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Stuart?
Sure, thanks. I missed a sticky here. So on page 13, on the 17th minutes, under grant match fund,
Yeah.
that second paragraph is correct, but I also mentioned that those RFPs and the grants should come before the select board before being executed. I think if you review the tape, it'll see my wording.
Do we have language? Do you want to insert, or Kathy, can you insert that? So I'll have to ask for a vote on this because we already approved that. I'll ask for a motion to amend the minutes to include that language that Mr. Smith just asked. So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. I'll call the roll. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye, thank
The
you.
chair votes aye. Okay. Thank you. Next, we have public announcements and agenda item requests. I have one on the agenda at the request of the chair of the Finance Committee. I'm going to take one item out of order. This is under the business agenda, Roman numeral 7, paragraph C, small Roman numeral 6, the implementation of the residential tax exemption. I'm going to take that up first among all those articles, so it will precede the airport article. Any agenda item requests or public announcements from the board? From the public, I understand there is that Paulette Failig wishes to make an announcement. Paulette, are you online? Yes.
Hi, yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Paulette Failig, 274 Main Street. I'm with Chatham Recycles, and we are announcing our 14th annual book and media swap. It will be next weekend, March 21st and 22nd, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Chatham Town Annex, down the hill and around the back. And we'd like you to please come drop off your books and media only on March 18th through 20th. That's Wednesday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And then come to the event on the 21st and 22nd. You don't have to drop stuff to take, but we ask that you please drop off no more than 2 boxes or 2 bags per person per day. And please, all items should be in boxes or sturdy bags, no homemade videos or cassettes, no encyclopedias or textbooks, no electronic devices as in VCRs, CD or DVD players, no moldy books, please. And please do not start browsing while you're bringing things because our volunteers need space to move around, but please come back on the weekend and browse to your heart's content. Also, please no early birds before 9 a.m. on the days of the events. It's just not fair to the others. But feel free to bring books, CDs, DVDs, VHS tapes, cassette tapes, vinyl records, jigsaw puzzles, as long as they're complete. I think that's it, unless anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Paulette.
Okay, thank you.
Good luck with that. Any other
Thanks very
public
much.
announcements or agenda item requests? I see none. Okay, the next item are 3 public hearings, 2 involving Verizon New England. I'll ask, the first is to consider a petition from Verizon New England Inc. to install a stub pole numbered P1S approximately 28 feet north of pole P1 and approximately 145 feet southwest of pole P18 on Morris Island Road to be located at the property address of 87 Morris Island Road. I will ask the clerk of the board to read the public announcement, public hearing notice.
Town of Chatham Select Board, public hearing notice. The Chatham Select Board will hold a public hearing at 5:30 p.m. on Tuesday, March 10th, 2026, in the large meeting room of the Town Office Annex, 261 George Ryder Road, Chatham, Mass., and remotely via Microsoft Teams platform to consider a petition from Verizon New England, Inc. to install stub pole numbered PIS approximately 28 feet north of pole P1 and approximately 145 feet southwest of pole P18 on Morris Island Road to be located at the property address of 87 Morris Island Road. This work is necessary to support a heavily leaning pole P1 due to a large transformer bank. The new stub pole installation of P1S is to support the leaning pole as well as straightened pole P1. The public is welcome to attend the meeting in person and participate via link at the meeting's posted agenda.
Thank you. I understand that Robin Latour of NBC is available online to present the Verizon request. Are you-
Yes.
Yes. Can you tell us a little bit about this, and we'll.
So basically, it's kind of straightforward. They're putting in the pole. So it's in the public road, except we're working on an easement with the landowner because the anchor is 5 feet on his property. So we got to make sure that he approves that before they can install that anchor. But it is directly across from the existing pole due to support issues.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Any comments or questions from the public? Okay, we'll take it back to the board. Is there a motion to approve?
Move approval.
In a second?
Second?
Moved in second. We'll call the roll. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dyken?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Next is a public hearing to consider a petition from Verizon New England, Inc. to install one new pole numbered 22/5/5, 36 feet east of existing pole numbered 22/5, and 80 feet west of existing pole numbered 22/6 on Mill Pond Road, and to install new conduit from the proposed pole numbered 22/5.5 southeast along Mill Pond Road, approximately 180 feet to Mill Pond Road pumping station project. I'll ask the clerk to read the public hearing notice.
Town of Chatham Select Board Public Hearing Notice. The Chatham Select Board will hold a public hearing at 5:30 p.m. on Tuesday, March 10th, 2026, in the large meeting room of the Town Office Annex, 261 George Ryder Road, Chatham, Mass., and remotely via Microsoft Teams platform to consider a petition from Verizon New England, Inc. to install one new pole numbered 22/5/5, 36 feet east of the existing pole numbered 22/5 and 80 feet west of the existing pole numbered 22-6 on Mill Pond Road, and to install new conduit from the proposed pole numbered 22/5.5 southeast along Mill Pond Road, approximately 180 feet to new Mill Pond Road pumping station project. The public is welcome to attend the meeting in person or participate via a link in the meeting's posted agenda.
Thank you. Ms. Latour?
Yes, so I also have Marissa Jackson from Eversource, because I know we have some abutters that had some questions, so I asked her to join as well. So what they were doing, they're basically taking, consolidating the two existing poles, 22/5 and 22/6, and putting the new pole in the middle of that to consolidate.
Okay. Marissa, welcome. Do you have anything you would like to add to this?
Yes, thank you very much. Marissa Jackson with Eversource. I'm here to support Verizon this evening. So again, just to install that pole 22/5.5, approximately 36 feet from existing pole 22/5. And if there are any questions at all, we'd be happy to address those.
Okay. Before we go any further, I noticed in the proposed order, in the first full paragraph, that there is I think, an incorrect date. It says that the petition was dated the 29th day of July, 2025, but the petition we have in the packet is the 27th of January, 2026. So that should be corrected, probably. Any questions from the board Stuart.
Sure, I just had one, and it's actually for both of you. It's related to these polls, but it's somewhat outside of this specific issue, and that is there this has come up from different members of the public about the graffiti and the stickers stuck all over these poles and that are either owned by Verizon or Eversource. Is that something you folks maintain? Do you have any schedule of maintenance for those types of things or cleanings?
I can speak to that. Unfortunately, we don't have the, capacity to remove that. My suggestion would be to reach out to your community liaison and see if there's something you can work out together, or, I don't want to push that back on the town, but I think that would be the town responsibility.
So
At
the-
least to indicate what poles are of concern.
Sure, so if we indicated what poles of concern, maybe the DPW does that, you folks would address that because they're owned by you folks, not us.
Right, I understand. There would be no way for us to keep up with, what's been put on our poles. No one is supposed to put anything, including, signs soliciting anything. But please keep us in the loop and we can see what we can do to address that.
Thank you.
Okay.
May I have, sorry, my name is Christian Treiber. We-
Yes,
we live,
sir,
right
sir,
there.
wait, please wait.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, so
I
any
didn't know
other-
how it
any-
works, so I
No, that's
appreciate
fine,
it.
that's fine. Any other comments from the board? Okay, Mr., what's his name? Ms. Triber? Triber?
Christian is fine.
Yeah, that's fine. I know you wrote,
Christian works.
you submitted two letters by email to us, which we will enter into the record. I was going to read one of them, but why don't I let you speak first, and we'll see where we're at on this. Go ahead,
Didn't
please.
mean to interrupt, sorry. I
No,
didn't
that's
just know
fine,
the
that's
process.
fine. Go
I
ahead.
appreciate it. So first of all, thanks for giving us the chance to speak, and my wife is on the Teams call as well, so I speak on behalf of both of us. So we bought the property in '24 and we renovated the cottage. You may recall there's a cottage and a house on there, and we wanted to maintain the footprint as it is part of the historical space for Chatham. And we hired Arnie Feldman, who's very familiar with Chatham. He built many houses there. He built our neighbor's house. And so we took it very seriously to put something in it that, fits the architecture and the overall style of the location. So our family has deep roots. And my wife's brother-in-law, Scott Yaw, and he grew up in Chatham, and his parents served on boards in town. One of her sisters, they became property owners in Chatham as well. So we really take it seriously, and it really matters to us. So the layout of our house when we constructed this, of course, as you can imagine, was based on the existing poles that are in place today. And now the understanding is that we're going to get a pole right in front of the house, in front of the windows, which, as you can imagine, it's nothing we really have a hard time supporting. Look, we fully support the pump station project. We gave the workers crew use of our driveway at all times, no problem. We know it helped the community, fewer trucks on the street parked, so they utilized that. All we are asking for is, okay, why can't the existing pole not be upgraded in this current space?
Okay.
Thanks for letting me speak.
Before we get a response from Verizon and Eversource, I'm going to read you sent two emails. They're essentially the same. I'm going to read the most recent one, which is dated March 2nd. And we'll enter both of these in the record. It's addressed to the members of the Select Board. We write, as the owner of 70 and 74 Mill Pond Road, Chatham, Massachusetts, to formally object to the proposed relocation of utility pole 20/5.5 on Mill Pond Road, as described in the petition for joint or identical pole locations filed by Verizon New England, Inc. and Eversource Energy dated January 26, 2026. Our objection is based on the following grounds. One, the location change was requested by the town of Chatham, not the utility companies. No technical justification for this change has been provided in the petition documents. 2, no technical justification has been produced despite requests. The town has not produced any engineering report, utility assessment, or other technical documentation explaining why the pole must be relocated from its original position. If the existing pole requires replacement due to capacity for new equipment, the appropriate solution is to replace it in the same location, not to relocate it. I would just interject parenthetically myself that with respect to these first two items, it's really not a town pole. This is an Eversource and Verizon. I believe Verizon owns the pole matter, so those concerns should be directed to them. 3, the proposed location directly impacts our private property. The work order plan shows the proposed pole P22/5.5 positioned immediately adjacent to our private hedge at 70/74 Mill Pond Road, with a 12-foot anchor extending toward our property. This anchor likely encroaches beyond the road layout onto our private land for which no easement has been sought or granted. Furthermore, we constructed our home with window placement specifically designed in relation to the existing pole locations 22.6 and 22.5. Relocating the pole closer to our property, House 74 Mill Pond, materially changes the conditions under which our home was built. 4, the change appears to benefit a private neighbor, not the public. The relocation of this pole serves no documented public purpose. The town's request to move the pole appears to be connected to an arrangement made with a neighboring property owner in exchange for support of the Mill Pond Road pumping station project. Using public utility infrastructure to benefit a private party at the expense of an abutting property owner is not a legitimate exercise of municipal authority. Again, I would just interject, it's not the town that's proposing to move the pole. We do need the connection of the cable down to the Mill Pond pumping station, though. Action requested. We respectfully request that the Select Board, 1, deny the petition as presented and require the pole to be placed at its original location. 2, require the town to produce all documentation related to the decision to request a change in pole location, including any communications with neighboring property owners. 3, require a survey confirming whether the proposed 12-foot anchor falls within the public road layout or on private property. 4, clarify plan for pole 22.5. Will it remain, be located, or be removed? We intend to appear via Teams and be heard at the public hearing scheduled for March 10, 2026, and respectfully request that this letter be entered into the formal record. Thank you for your consideration. Sincerely, Erin O'Brien and Christian Triber, 70 and 74 Mill Pond Road, Chatham. Okay, so I'm going to ask whoever of the two company representatives wish to address the questions and concerns that Mr. Triber has posed. I did personally, I live in the general neighborhood, so I walked down there on Sunday to take a look at the locations in question, so I have some idea of what his concerns are. So who wants to go?
I know that my colleague that was working on that sent an email, so do we want to start with all the questions or with those answers, or do you want to go?
Well, let me ask you a question first. Mr. Triber, in one of his concerns, talked about the anchor being on his property.
Yes, that's not the case. That will be in the public road. Just like the existing anchor is on 22.5.
Okay. All right. Why don't you proceed to answer his other questions? He's talking essentially about the location of a new pole, I guess,
Yep.
to replace both these poles or just one?
So they're removing 2 poles and putting 1 pole in.
Okay. And the pole that's being put in is in his line of sight, I guess, as I
Yes.
understand. Is that correct, Mr. Triber?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. So why, Ms. Latour, why don't you address that, please?
What was the question again? I'm
Well,
sorry, there was
the
a lot
objection-
of verbiage.
The objection of the property owner is that the proposed new pole location obstructs his line of sight.
Okay.
Okay? So is that the only place you can put it?
I will have to go back to the engineering team to see, I can't answer that. I don't
Okay.
have the engineering background on that, but I could request from Verizon that if they could do a redesign, if Mr. Triber has any suggestions on where, if he wants to move it a little more to the left or right, I would gladly take that in consideration and bring that back to Verizon.
Okay. Before I turn to Mr. Triber, I'm going to ask our Director of Public Works, Mr. Feely. He wants to say something about this.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I did go out and take some pictures for the benefit of the board, so you can see where the existing poles are and where the poles are being replaced, if you'd like me to show that. I guess, Bree, can you share? So that's the current Mill Pond Pump Station. It's at the corner of Mill Pond Road and Homestead Lane. There's an existing pole right at the pump station with 3 transformers on top that's basically in the way. We worked around it during construction, but still we haven't finished the steps because the anchor for that pole is going through the middle of the steps. It's just creating some logistical challenges for us. So we wanted to relocate that pole and those transformers. This is just a quick overview. 22.7 is the pole down by the pump station. 22.6 is the next pole uphill on Mill Pond Road, and 22.5 is the pole uphill from that, just adjacent to house number 70. It's the house, one of the houses that
That's the house
Christian-
in question.
Well, they own both of those houses.
Okay, 70 and
So
70.
this is just a reference point for the 3 poles that we're
Okay.
kind of using as a reference. So again, here's the Mill Pond Pump Station. We're removing that pole. And we had planned to move it to all those transformers to the next pole uphill from uphill of Mill Pond Road. As you can see currently, 2 of the neighbors on the north side have a nice view of Little Mill Pond. If we were to relocate those transformers there, we are making their view worse than it is now. We're always under the belief that we need to leave things in better condition than we found them, and we don't want to impact the view shed of somebody negatively. So we looked at some different options. So that pole would be coming out as well. And then our first selection was to relocate the pole to this location. Christian mentioned he had some renovations done to his house. You could see in that orange area, he had a 2-story window put in at his stairway. So this pole was, he claimed this pole was right in the view shed of his windows. We certainly didn't want to impact anybody negatively again, so we looked at some other options. And the final third location we decided was the best option for all involved, was 36 feet down from the existing pole furthest uphill. Christian has a 6.5-foot hedgerow in front. We moved it all the way up near the driveway to his cottage, and we really tried to minimize any of the impacts for all the residents there. Keep in mind that anything from this pole to the pump station, all of those utilities will be underground. So there will be no visual obstructions. So it'll be a benefit to everybody in that neighborhood, plus the users of the pier. So that's what we're left with, 36 feet. That's what the proposal is now, 36 feet from existing pole 22-5 with the new pole. I leave it to Eversource engineers to determine how they want to distribute their transformers on top, but this really doesn't impact the view shed of any of the neighbors through that area.
Okay. So you're going to get rid of the pole that's right at the pumping station?
2 poles, one at the pump station and the next one uphill of the pump station, and it would be replaced with this pole.
Okay. All right. Mr. Triber, can you come back
Yeah,
on?
so,
Do you have
yeah,
any?
thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, if you don't mind. So bottom line, there is no technical reason to move the one existing pole. Is that correct?
Did you hear the question?
Yeah, the pole down at the pump station?
No, the pole at the pump station, I understand, needs to move because of the proximity to the pump station.
Correct.
The one next up, I think it's 22.6. There's no technical reason to move this pole.
Well, there's a thing called inverse condemnation, that if we, the view those residents have of Little Mill Pond has a value associated with it. Some neighbors may call it a high value. So if we diminish that property value, we may be liable to reimburse some of those property owners. So They're protected under the Fifth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, that we cannot make their situation worse, substantially worse than it currently is.
But wouldn't you move, oh, so sorry, go ahead.
I was going to ask, but it's not the town that's placing the pole, it's the utility companies.
It's the utility companies at the town's request.
All right. Go ahead, Mr. Triber.
So now we make it nicer for the two neighbors, and now we move it in front of our house. And if you don't mind, I would share my mock-ups, and I admit they're not as pretty as what you have produced, so.
Go ahead.
My apologies for that. I think you see this. This is,
Can we see
Where we
that
are
on the
today.
big, is it possible, hold on, can we get that on the big screen? Please, there it is. Yes,
so this is today's view, and again, my mock-up is not as
yeah.
sophisticated as the other one, yeah. That's what it would be. When you look out of the window, that's what it looked like tomorrow. So I think putting it, and look, and I totally understand the neighbors, yeah. But now we put it in front of our house, and I don't know why that's okay, if it's not okay to leave it at the other side. And again, it's going to be a pretty big pole with three or four.
Have there been,
Stations on
have there
top.
been any conversations between, among the two companies and Mr. Triber?
No, the first, we just got notice, I think it was like on the 4th from him.
Well, on July 18th, if I would not have been home, and I look at, don't take it the wrong way if I say it this way, if I would not have been home, the pole would have been put into the location 22.5.5. If I would not have stopped the driver and the crew leader, Fredo Blanco, who was really nice, yeah, we had a really nice chat, he said if you would not have been home, that thing would have been up in 15 minutes without a hearing.
So on that day, Christian did call me, as well as two other adjacent property owners. That pole was being placed in the wrong location, and we had yet to have a pole hearing. So we did, I appreciate him reaching out, and we did stop the installation of that.
Yeah.
This has been going on since May of 2023. We got the first design from Eversource, and we've been struggling to try to get an approved location since then.
Does this affect does the delay here affect the operation of the pump station?
Doesn't affect the operation of the pump station, but it impacts the construction contract. We've had to put Robert B. Auer on hold. They haven't completed the project yet, so there's additional costs for construction oversight. We could face potential delays, but we haven't really seen anything yet.
This is a public hearing. Are there any other public comments? I don't see any. Any comments or questions from the board? Corey, and then Shireen.
The first question is for Mr. Triber. Since you're the property owners of both 70 and 74 Mill Pond, is there a location that is along your property that you would be amenable to considering, if from an engineering point worked, but from your visual perspective or preference, is there a location on your property that you would, I guess, recommend for consideration?
Look, we have an existing pole, I think it's called 22.5, if I'm not mistaken, the one next to the cottage. And it has always been there, yeah. But my understanding is that this distance is too far to the pump station. And at the same time, the one thing I think we also would like to understand is, Robert, you said there are going to be 4 transformers, but just 3 can be on a pole. So to answer your question, yes, I can consider the existing pole that's next to the cottage, but now having all the transformers on there, I would be very interested in whether there's any interference noise created by the transformers, depending on weather, etc., and humidity. That would be something we could consider.
Okay, thank you. And then the question for the utilities. If we were to send this back to your engineering department for consideration of a of the location that was just previously mentioned, the location 22.5. I know we're looking at potentially having some of this underground. How many transformers we're actually looking at for pole? What type of turnaround time would be required to evaluate that and come back to us for the response to see if any of this has any validity?
I could bring it back to Verizon tomorrow, and hopefully the engineer could have something back by early next week
So
or
we-
sooner.
I mean, I'd be interested in kind of getting a response from the engineering team to see if we have any options.
Yeah.
Sure. Thank you.
I know they redesigned this a few times, so I know the options are getting limited on this.
Okay. Shireen?
Corey had asked the questions that I was going to
Okay.
ask. Thank you.
I see JB on the screen. Ms. Brooks, Jay Brooks. Do you wish to speak, sir, or ma'am?
Hi, yes, I provided the easement for the pump station. I'm at 39 Homestead, which is on the bottom. There was a question of where the project was. I believe Rob commented, there is still a large temporary electrical panel sitting in my yard on the opposite side of my fence, awaiting on these poles. So anything on the board to do to expedite this once these planning comes in, I do appreciate the appropriate planning and, you know, support the need to put poles where they need to be here. But would have a similar question to Christian, why are we moving poles when they already exist, would be my question. So, but either way, looking for the fastest, but I wanted to reference that project still is impacting my property and the easement that I provided. And the panel is outside the easement, so I kind of granted that on good faith that it would be removed shortly.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Dykens.
Yeah, so I agree with Corey's recommendation or suggestion that go back to Verizon, remand it back to Verizon, but with a conclusion or another recommendation, you know, coming back to the town of Chatham and the select board with all due alacrity. Seems as though, you know, we have an issue here, and it seems as though we could probably be able to figure it out, but we don't have a solution this evening. But I think Verizon ought to take a real good, hard look at it again and come back, you know, next week or the week after so we can reconsider. And we can get the panel out of the Brooks's property and make Mr. Triber happy with the outcome.
And
And
let's,
Mr. Triber, if you have any suggestions on like preference, I would gladly bring that to Verizon. Just to kind
As I
of work
mentioned,
with
as I
you and-
mentioned, yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I mean, there's one existing one next to the cottage today, next to 70. Yeah, but I would like to understand if you put, and I assume it wouldn't need an upgrade, this pole as well, how many transformers would go up there? And the other question I have is, Robert, you mentioned earlier, if you put the transformers to the existing pole, it has an impact, material impact on the neighbors. If you put it in front of our house, and has a material impact on us. So I don't know, putting it from one to the other would be the right approach either, yeah.
Well,
But again, that's something we would consider.
let's include in the further engineering some discussion or communication between the neighbor that's affected, Mr. Triber, and the Verizon, I guess, in particular, Eversource if needed, and our DPW. And I would suggest, I would entertain a motion to continue the hearing to a date certain. Do we want to make it 1 week, 2 weeks?
Couple weeks.
March 24th?
I would say 2 weeks, yeah.
So is there a motion, Mr. Metters, are you making a motion to continue the hearing to March 24th?
Yes, I am so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Okay, so we're going to continue this. We'll take a vote right now. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dyken?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. So thank you all very much. We will, hopefully, you can come back with a solution that's mutually satisfactory. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next, the final public hearing is to consider a request from the Animal Control Officer, Diane Byers, pursuant to Town Bylaws, Chapter 115, Section 6F, regarding complaints of a nuisance dog at 33 Victoria Drive, and to discuss livestock compensation per Town Bylaws, Chapter 115, Section 6J. I'll ask the clerk to read the public hearing notice.
Town of Chatham Select Board Public Hearing Notice. Notice is hereby given that the Chatham Select Board will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, March 10th, 2026 at 5:30 PM in the large meeting room at the Town Office Annex, 261 George Ryder Road, and remotely through the link in the posted agenda, to consider a request from the Animal Control Officer, Diane Byers, pursuant to Town Bylaw, Chapter 115, Section 6F, regarding complaints of a nuisance dog at 33 Victoria Drive, and to discuss livestock compensation per Town Bylaw, Chapter 115, Section 6J. All interested parties are encouraged to participate.
Thank you. So welcome, Diane.
Mr. Chair, I'm recusing myself.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you. Shireen is going to recuse herself from this. Welcome, Diane. I'm going to turn it over to you to present, but I understand essentially what you're asking for is that under our town bylaws, which was a surprise to me, that the town would compensate Jade Schuyler, who is the owner of these chickens, $530.83, and also ask that the board deem the dog of Mr. Nickerson a nuisance dog, for which remedial measures are being proposed. So ask you to give us some background on this, and then we'll have some discussion.
Okay, yes, my name is Diane Byers. I'm the Animal Control Officer for the Chatham Police Department. Again, I'm requesting two things from the board tonight. One is a livestock claim of reimbursement, which is my first time also ever dealing with this. I can't remember or know of a time where a dog in town killed livestock. And also asking the board to deem Kenny Nickerson's dog a nuisance dog under Mass General Law, Chapter 140, Section 157. So a brief synopsis of what happened here. On January 5th, 2026, Mr. Nickerson's dog, Sasha, was not properly restrained and entered a chicken coop located at 2058 Main Street, which is Chatham Pottery, owned by Jade Schuyler. During this incident, the dog killed all 13 of Mrs. Schuyler's chickens. Under Town Bylaw, Chapter 115, Section 6, when livestock is killed by a dog, the animal control officer must submit a written report to the select board detailing the incident and the damages. The board may then instruct the town treasurer to reimburse the livestock owner for the market value of the animals lost. So following the incident, I documented the damage and obtained 3 separate appraisals for the value of the chickens. The first appraisal was from Leo Kukunis. He is a local livestock dealer based out of Harwich with nearly 30 years' experience. The second appraisal was from James Rose. I believe he is more of a hobbyist when it comes to chickens, but he is who Jade originally purchased the chickens from. The third appraisal was from Lisa Wilson, who is the owner of Barnstable Farm and Pet. She is knowledgeable of the current retail prices of poultry. As required by the bylaw, the claim is based on the market value of the animals. I averaged the 3 appraisals to determine a fair estimate, which resulted in the total amount of $530.83.
So let's focus on that
Yep.
first, the reimbursement. The number of chickens, I thought was 15, but in the appraisals, they were using the number 13.
It is 13,
It's
yes.
13. The bylaw says that no reimbursement will be made for domestic animals that are not raised for food or pelts. So
Correct.
Are these chickens being raised for food, or, because I?
Yes. To not go into the specific, too heavily into livestock, the birds were pullets,
Okay.
which are chickens who have entered their prime egg-laying phase of life. It's when they first reach maturity. So the price of a bird is actually heavily dependent on its age and its ability to lay eggs. So these birds were in their prime egg-laying condition. Jade did purchase the birds to have eggs. And of course, like a lot of other chicken owners, eventually they became beloved pets, but they were egg-laying and producing eggs.
Thank you. My final question at this point has to do with potential for reimbursement to the town
Right.
from the owner of the dog. I mean, there's something in there about in the bylaw about the town. Pardon me?
I think it's K.
Okay, yeah, the owner of this is paragraph K, the owner or keeper of a dog which has done damage to domestic animals shall be liable for such damage, and the select board may order the owner or keeper to pay such damages after an investigation and appraisal by the animal control officer, and an appraisal done by a person chosen by the person sustaining the damage, and an appraisal done by a third person chosen by the other two. These three people shall submit a report to the select board stating the type of damage, the number and kind of animals damages, and whether any animals required medical treatment by a veterinarian to save them. So I just really wanted to point that out because we don't know whether the owner of the dog is present, either in person or virtually.
He is not present, and during conversations with him, I have not heard him offer to pay Jade directly or to pay the town. Again, this is my first time enforcing this exact paragraph of the bylaw, so I'm not exactly sure how it would work.
Okay.
But he hasn't offered any
Okay,
money.
thank you. Any comments from the board? Stuart, and then Jeff, and then Corey.
Sure. Thank you, Diane. You know, under the bylaw, J, subparagraph 2, it says, I mean, I interpret it as two conflicting things here. Domestic animals so killed that are raised for food and pelts are eligible, I think the word eligible, for reimbursement by the town. Then you go down to the last sentence, and it says, after reviewing the written report, the select board shall instruct the town treasurer to pay the claim. So, is this a requirement?
That's the way I'm reading it. We have town council in the audience if he wants to, if we'd like to get a question posed to him.
I mean, I think it would be helpful if he's comfortable answering it,
Yeah.
but the,
Jay, do you want to come forward? That's the way I'm reading it, Stuart. I realize the first one uses the term eligibility, and then there's a mandatory.
this is having spent a lot of time in this type of business, this is a very unusual bylaw scheme
Yeah.
that we may want to look at in the future. Then I have some more questions after. Thank you, Jay.
Mr. Tallerman.
So
Welcome.
this is a first for me, too. This is, when I heard about this earlier today, Jill told me about it. I was a little surprised that you have this bylaw. I suppose in some of the more rural counties, we might see something like this, but it's the first time I've come across it. I'm, without too much familiarity, Stuart, I'm reluctant to opine with a lot of firm conviction. But if I was going to, we're supposed to harmonize all of the provisions of something. We can't rely on the kind of mays and may be eligibles to the exclusion of the other language, that seems more mandatory. I guess if I was making my best off-the-cuff legal opinion, I would probably say the may be eligible might apply to whether or not these animals were raised for food, so making them eligible for that compensation, and then marrying that to the provisions that make our compensation requirements more mandatory.
Thank you. Could you, maybe you can't, because this is really odd. Why would the town be I mean, I know what the bylaw says, and it's a little bit of oddness there, but why would the town be responsible for paying for livestock that's lost? We're not a party to this, right? We're not neighbor. I mean, it's not our chickens, it's not our dog that did the killing.
I mean, I could speculate as to the origin of some of these things. A lot of bylaws like this, of course, get copied from maybe what another town
Right.
did, but it's also possible that at the time it happened, it was spurred perhaps by some events, and town meeting can swing back and forth on things, so it could be either one of those things, either like, hey, this language looks good, we have a comprehensive rewrite, or maybe at the time, someone had lost a bunch of chickens to a dog, and the town maybe was trying to be reactive to that so that in the future, people wouldn't be out of pocket for those kinds of things. I mean, we do have the right then to go after the dog owner for the compensation or indemnification, kind of, so to speak, it appears, based upon what I heard Dean citing in that language.
Yeah, is that under K,
Yeah.
where you think the town can pursue, not the owner of the chickens, but the town has to pursue?
Yeah, and there's a complicated process there, although I would argue that the appraisals we've done should qualify, but.
It probably would, and then we get into the whole thing, we impose it, and then maybe does it become a lien or a municipal charge under, payment and permits for, when people don't pay what our obligations would be for future licenses and things like that. So it tips then into a whole other set of remedial measures under different statutes. But there is some recourse, it appears. Again, there's a little more off the cuff than anything else, but.
Any more?
I do, but I can wait till.
Before I go to Jeff, I just wanted to ask Diane, I don't know if Ms. Schuyler is here, but has there been any communication between Ms. Schuyler and Mr. Nickerson about reimbursement?
No, they have a very strained relationship.
Okay.
There is a harassment prevention order and a no trespass order from Jade to Mr. Nickerson. So
Okay.
any communication regarding that would be through me. And again, Kenny has never offered to pay Jade.
Is the Nickerson property abutting the,
It is across the street.
okay, thank you. Jeff?
Thank you, Dean. Yeah,
Stay there, Jay.
Under J2, I mean, I frankly read it very similar to what Jay just described, that if in fact domestic animals are raised for food and chickens can either be eaten themselves or the eggs can be eaten, so I would assume that in this case, they are being raised for food, and therefore they're eligible for reimbursement by the town. If we abide by the letter of the bylaw, then the last sentence after reviewing the written report, which I think was done very well, by the way, I like the way you approached the valuation, et cetera, and I thought the report was very well written for a first time out for all of us. I mean, but I thought it was very well done. But after reviewing the written report, we'll instruct the town treasurer to pay the claim. If we deem the claim to be eligible and the facts are written up the way we find, the way they ought to be, and they were. So I think you did a great job in the absence of any kind of background or any history here, and I would certainly move reimbursement in this case, given the nature of our bylaw. Notwithstanding that the bylaw itself is fairly arcane, it was amended 6/12/21 by the annual town meeting, and I didn't go back and look at Article 55.
I think that was just to insert select board versus board of
Oh,
selectmen.
okay, all right, select board, yeah. So anyway, those are my thoughts. I would move that we pay the average.
You're making that a motion
I
right
am,
now?
I am, yeah.
Is there a second?
Second, then.
Okay.
Thanks.
Corey, you wanted to go?
A couple comments. First, if you actually look at all our bylaws, there are some odd bylaws on our books. So this one isn't so off the cuff, to be honest with you. Mechanically, obviously, if we want to entertain any type of reimbursement from the dog owner, that's going to be done through a different public hearing process. Obviously, that's nothing we do with tonight. So it was part of the conversation, but mechanically, that would be a separate action on another date through another process. So that we don't have to deal with tonight. As far as the reimbursements, I think there's no argument about what has happened. There's no discrepancies. We have the documentation. We have the 3 quotes. I think everything is in place. So I am supportive of the reimbursement process from the town. So.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I agree with what Jeff said about the way this was handled. Diane, you followed the letter of the bylaw, and it's very reasonable. The bylaw it says pay it. If it were a lot more money, I probably would balk at it a little bit, but it's $500+ my inclination is that we should pay it out of the town treasury, and then, as Corey suggested, we could consider seeking reimbursement, but that's probably going to cost us more than $500. But we can talk about that. Stuart, you had before I asked for a vote on this, you had further questions on this, or?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
thank you. I just had a couple of questions, maybe, Diane. In your report, you mentioned a citation number. How much was the citation issued for? Was that the only citation issued?
So for this incident, yes, it was a $50 citation for the dog, for failing to restrain the dog, resulting in the loss of the livestock.
Okay. And
Was that $50 paid?
No.
Okay.
we'll add that to the 500. So you mentioned that there was, maybe Jade had some camera footage and it was going to be forwarded to Officer Spalding. Was that, what was that for?
I don't think that the actual act of the dog killing the chickens was caught on camera. But when I arrived, it was very plainly obvious that the dog had gotten into the coop and killed all 13 of them.
Yeah, it looked like, unless I'm reading it wrong, but it looked like the dog was still in the coop.
Yeah, he was stuck in
Any-
there. Yeah.
Any speculation? I know you say, that wasn't really obvious as to how the dog got in there, made entry, but any was the door locked? I mean, I'm trying to,
Even the chicken coop, it was a structurally sound chicken coop, and even that is within some fencing on Jade's property. So the only explanation I really have is that it's a husky, and it had a prey drive, and it somehow, me and Jade thoroughly looked it over, and we couldn't exactly figure out how it got in.
that's a tricky dog. Okay, well, I guess that was it. This is, if Mr. Tallerman is comfortable with, that we're required to pay this under this bylaw, then I guess that'll be my vote, that we pay it. But I think we need to, I don't think that, and I'm a dog owner, or have been, I don't think people who don't own dogs should be paying for this sort of thing. And this seems really odd. So I'd like to be able to review this, or the board to review it and come up, maybe the animal control officer, whomever, could come up with some language that doesn't, doesn't force people to.
Make that a future agenda item.
Yeah, I could put that on a future agenda item that we discuss
So
bylaw,
noted.
the animal control bylaw.
Okay. Unless there are any other comments from the public, I'm going to take a vote on the motion by Mr. Dykens, seconded by Mr. Metters, that the town pay the amount of $500 and, whatever it is.
$530.83.
To Jade Schuyler, pursuant to the bylaw. I'll call the roll. Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Now, issue number 2, the nuisance dog designation.
Right, so in addition to the livestock loss, there is a documented history of the dog running loose. So last year, in 2025, Sasha the dog had been confirmed running at large 5 times, with complaints documented through the Chatham Police Department. Additionally, the dog has been observed by Chatham Police Department on 7 occasions, tethered outside on a leash, while no owner or caretaker was present at the home. So it's outside on a leash with no one around. Since this incident occurred in January of this year, Sasha the dog has been observed running loose on Schuyler's property 2 additional times. So even after this, the dog has been loose on her property twice.
Jeff?
So what's next then? How do we deal with the nuisance dogs?
Right.
It's in your memo, but I want the public to hear it.
Right, so given the history of the dog running loose, combined with this incident involving the killing of livestock, I believe additional confinement measures are necessary. Therefore, I'm asking the board to deem Sasha a nuisance dog under Mass General Law, Chapter 140. The definition of a nuisance dog is as follows: a dog that has threatened or attacked livestock, a domestic animal, or a person, but such threat or attack was not grossly disproportionate reaction under all the circumstances. So again, I don't think this dog is a dangerous dog. I don't think it's aggressive. I don't think it's a threat to the public. It was acting according to its prey drive. And that's why I think a nuisance dog would be a better designation. If the dog is deemed a nuisance dog by the board would have the authority to force Nickerson to take remedial action. I would recommend that Mr. Nickerson be required to construct a secure fenced-in area or a dog run, measuring at least 8 by 12 feet, 6 feet in height, and dig-proof. The run should also include an appropriate shelter.
Okay. so the recommendation is both to declare the dog a nuisance dog, but also to adopt the remedial measures that you just announced. Do we know if Mr. Nickerson would be receptive to those remedial measures? Have you had conversation with him about that?
I have talked to him. He said that he would be interested in putting a fenced-in enclosure. However, given the history and knowing Mr. Nickerson, I can't say that if he was left on his own devices, that would get done in a reasonable manner, timeframe.
How does this get enforced, though, if the board adopts these measures tonight?
I believe that he could receive a citation after a certain amount of time if we agree, if he had to do this, say in 30 days, 60 days. I believe he could receive citations for every day that wasn't done.
Okay. Lieutenant Harris, do you have any comment on this?
Just further on that, so then if the citations were not paid or were not taken care of and he didn't address any of them, then we would take it to district court and he would have it would turn into a criminal charge if he did not take action on what the board or what the animal control officer ordered him to do.
Okay, so can we have, just for the sake of moving this along, can we have a motion to declare the dog a nuisance dog and also to adopt these remedial measures? And I think we should be specific, and I think we should assign a deadline.
Sure.
Corey?
So, okay,
Take a
so
crack at it.
so we can have this discussion, so I can cover this motion. So I move that the select board declare the Nickerson dog a, quote, nuisance dog, and that the remedial actions to include a dog run of 8 feet by 12 feet or larger, 6 feet in height, dig-proof, and provided a shelter from the weather, be constructed on the Nickerson property within 30 days.
Do we think that's enough time? Or do we want more, or?
I do, and at least if he showed action that was taking place, we would extend that if needed.
Okay, within 30 days, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, the bylaw the statute, chapter 140, section 157, requires us to investigate or cause the investigation of the complaint, including an examination under oath. Well, we never do that at a public hearing. Determine whether the dog is a nuisance dog. We've declared dogs nuisance dogs or dangerous dogs. I think this is the third dog hearing I've been party to in this manner. So any discussion? Corey?
Well, I do think there's some, at least from some of the correspondence and conversations I've had, there's some concern that of the well-being for the dog. It doesn't appear to be a dangerous dog or a threat, but there may be some opportunity to provide some better care for the dog. I think this remedy, offering a better location for the dog to be outside, but with their own protection, I think is very reasonable. And I think it's something that is within arm's reach of the owner being able to provide. So I can support this and hope we have a good ending. Maybe we won't. But I think this is something that's reasonable and can be done without much of a hardship.
Okay. I just want to state for the record, I think we're entertaining this as a complaint from the animal control officer. And also, I think I just want to substitute the word deem, that's in the bylaw, for the word declare in your motion, and the second that was given by Mr. Dykens.
That's fine.
With that, I will call the roll. Unless there's any discussion. Stuart, did you have something?
Well, just one, and I was going to get back to what Corey had mentioned about the well-being for the dog. I read Jade's statement, 40 complaints about this dog running loose and unleashed. Is that about right?
So just like all things in the police department, there are complaints that come in, but not all of them are founded. So the numbers that I included, like the dog being tethered without anybody there.
Right.
That was incidents that were complaints were filed and the police showed up and confirmed that was true.
Sure. And she goes on to say, I found the dog outside in the cold, extremely thirsty and hungry. I personally witnessed Mr. Nickerson drag the dog by the neck approximately 30 yards and strike her. And she says this is on camera. I don't know if this is correct, but just to follow up on Mr. Metter's comments about the well-being of the dog, I'd have a concern about that, but I don't know what else to do about it.
Just that we do document all these cases too, and if there is any animal cruelty, that will be documented and charges would be sought if that was determined at that point.
Okay, great, thank you.
Jeff?
So Diane, I just have a question about if you thought a dog wasn't being cared for properly, was left outside in the cold, et cetera, how would the town remediate that situation? Do you take the dog into to your kennel or whatever, your house, and what happens?
That would be a criminal charge, and dogs can be seized after a conviction of animal cruelty. There are some cases where if the dog was in imminent danger, we could take protective custody.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah.
So where's the dog now? Is it
At home,
inside or outside?
to be determined.
Okay.
We'll see tonight.
Okay, I mean, I share the same concern about for the care of the dog, having read the documents. So I just hope we stay close to it, because I think there are issues here.
But we're not making a determination on that.
No, we're
item.
declaring it.
We're only
Nuisance and build.
deeming it nuisance.
Build a run.
And adopting remedial measures. So with that, I'm going to take a vote, unless there's anything more. On the motion, Mr. Dykens.
Aye.
Mr. Metters.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Thank you, Diane. Okay, and Shireen is rejoining us. Next is there is no consent agenda tonight, so we'll move directly to the report on Chatham Wells, PFAS and drinking water testing and pumping update, January and February 2026. Mr. Fairley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening again. Bear with me as I get this loaded. So I'm going to, kind of similar to last year, we were pretty budget heavy in January and February, so we postponed this and we're doing a 2-month update for January and February 2026. Thank you. So the wells have been pumping 3 to 6 hours per day in January and 4 to 7 hours per day in February. And the water tanks did not hit the low level alarm during this period. Sorry, I lost my screen here. Technical challenges. I'll just keep reading through it if you don't mind. For training field wells 5 and 8, the permanent treatment facility, most of the exterior building work has been completed with the exception of the roof-mounted solar panels and final paving. The refurbished well pumps for wells 5 and 8 have been reinstalled, and permanent power has been run by Eversource, and the building is under electrical power. We're still working with National Grid to get gas service for the HVAC and generator that we expect to happen shortly. Interior work, the plumbing, chemical feed, piping is all continuing. A lot of the smaller things that don't really translate well in photographs, even though I've got a couple, and I think you've got a couple in your packet. Thank you. Still, just bear with me, I'm sorry. It's not going as smoothly as I would hope. Here are some pictures. So we're working on the finalization of the site. We're looking to have a startup schedule planned for mid-April. It doesn't mean we'll be pumping into the town's system, but it'll be a startup schedule. We're working with DEP on getting all the systems settled and approved. As far as irrigation meters, again, just a quick update. We've sold over 96,800 or 484 irrigation meters. 488 have been installed. So we right now have 1,340 operable registered irrigation systems in Chatham. Making great headway. There's still 5 properties that have not acknowledged any of our fines. We send the water bills to those addresses. They pay the water bills. For some reason, they're ignoring these, so we are working with Lieutenant Harris to take them to court and settle it that way. There's still 35 properties who've not made appointments. We've started new fines for them, and they've totaled $13,800 so far. Due to the snow, we've had to postpone some installs, but we have 81 properties with appointments with our department through May of this year.
Good, that's very good progress.
It is, it is.
Water sampling, the notable item is PFAS. We did PFAS samples at wells 10 and 11 and also well 4. PFAS results for 10 and 11 came back at 4.17, which is still well below the Massachusetts limits, but it's higher than what EPA proposes, which I believe is now postponed until 2031. So we are conducting a study with Weston and Sampson to see the best path forward for that, and we'll present to the board at a future date. For well 4, it was no detect. Just ongoing station maintenance, system maintenance, nothing too outrageous here. We did respond to several leaking water meters and burst pipes. As you know, it's been a pretty cold winter this year. We expect to see more of that type of activity as people get into their houses for the first time in the spring. We completed our Tier 2 chemical report, which was reported to the fire department and the regulatory agencies. Sorry about the format here. I'll try to reduce it so it's a little easier to, better. This is the January pumping comparison, January of 25 to January of 26. As you can see, we're about 13.6% higher than last January. And I think part of that is because last year, for some reason, the flows were unusually low. Later on, we'll look at the 5-year average. So we're only about 7% higher than the 5-year average, which is still higher. We're not really sure what that is attributed to. Similarly, when we look at February, this shows 37% higher than last February. February is typically a pretty low month. And you can see the 18 million gallons we pumped in February is actually less than we pumped in January. But when we look at the 5-year average, we're about 10% higher than the 5-year average. We talked about this with Veolia staff, like what could be attributed to this? The only thing we can come up with was possibly because of the severe winter, there may be some households that have burst pipes in their basement and they're not yet discovered. So we are looking at our data to see if we can discover any of that. We have caught a couple of them in the early stages, but if they're not severe leaks and using a lot of water through the meter, we may not detect them until those residents show up at their houses in the spring. Here's the pumping graph. Again, hot pink is the January 26. You can just see daily fluctuations compared to last January. There is a point on the 28th that was just an error, a plotting error. It wasn't 0. It was up around 550,000 or so gallons. Here's the bar chart for January. The orange is January of this year. Again, a lot of daily fluctuations, but in large, slightly higher pumping than January of last year. Then we look at the bar chart, the graph, for February versus February of last year. The hot pink, you could see almost daily that the rate is much higher than last year. Again, we're still trying to figure out why that's the case. And the bar chart with the same information, showing orange columns are much higher than the blue. And here's the January pumping report, showing the level of effort for each well. You can see the South Chatham wells around middle part of the month. We shut those down to do some maintenance. Wintertime's a great time for us to conduct some of that maintenance, some of that needed annual maintenance that we do. Average daily is 592,000 gallons. And then we look at February. Again, maintenance on the wells 6, 7, and 9. Average pumpage was 586,000 gallons. Still lower than January, but since it was compared to a very low flow last February, it seems like it's almost spiking, but I don't think that's really the case. Here are the bar charts again, January on top, February on the bottom. You can see South Chatham again is kind of truncated because of that maintenance in January, but you see it pick back up in February. And here is the year-to-date pumping report. Again, we are 7 million gallons higher than this point last year, which is substantial. Again, we were in a drought. We were in a drought last year as well. So if it's burst pipes, we'll find out soon enough. But I'm not really sure if people were home during foul weather and they were using water more. But really, I don't have anything solid to point to offer. Here's the pumping graph, year to date.
Rob?
Yes.
Question. Is it always going to be the house or home that's going to impact the rise in water usage? Could it be underground pipes that would go undetected as having leakage?
So we have devices that we put out there. They basically listen for leaks, and we've been using those all winter. We have a couple of very small leaks. A lot of the snow can hide a lot, but now we would find like some damp or wet areas. We haven't really found anything yet. So it could be on our end. We've been looking, we've been listening. Really nothing substantial so far. And here's the unmetered water usage year to date. Of course, the hydrant maintenance we expect to start flushing later this month, so we'll see some of those numbers creep up for the March report. And here's the 5-year average. This is for January. Again, 7% higher in the 5-year average. Not quite as drastic, but it's still the highest since, I think I went back to 2020, and it's the highest since 2020. And here's February, very similar. Again, 10% higher on the 5-year average. Here's the Chatham USGS report. You can see this only goes to February, so you can see that we're starting to climb and recharge the aquifer. February was still frozen. The recent melting and the rains we've seen, they won't be reflected until we do the March report. But even though that may take months for that water to actually recharge the aquifer, all the snow, if it's 3 feet of snow that we had, they predicted about 2.5 inches of water in that 3 feet of snow. So it's not as substantial as you may think at first glance. But the good news is we are recharging. Just how high we go, we'll wait and see. This is a little bit more bleak. We've always discussed that Brewster is kind of the bellwether of observation wells for the aquifer, and we're really floundering towards the bottom there. It's not recharging. It was so concerning to me, I reached out to USGS and said, is there a problem with your observation well not reporting correctly? And they confirmed that it is reporting correctly. So we're really not seeing any recharge yet in the Brewster observation well. Doesn't bode well for this summer, but we'll have to wait and see how the rest of spring goes. So for the drought status, this map is from February 11th with their declaration. They met again on March 6th and updated the map. the general groundwater percentiles. The upper left is December. You can see the Chatham observation well and the Brewster observation well. They're the lighter color. Then we go to January. They're still the lighter color. And this is for February. The two that we look at are still the lighter color, but then you see the other one in Brewster, and it's a level 3. So we just keep monitoring that and see how it recovers. And here is what their recommendation was. Cape would remain at a level 2 designation. They don't track evapotranspiration, that's what ET is, or the KBDI, which is a drought index that looks at the saturation of soils in the forest. But everything else indicates that it would be a level 2.
And that was confirmed by their meeting yesterday as well?
Yes, the Water and Sewer Advisory Committee did vote to support a level 2. Again, it's only draft until the Secretary of Environmental Affairs approves it, but that's what the recommendation for the Drought Task Force was.
Yeah, so just bring that back to the board. As Rob said, the Water and Sewer Committee met yesterday to continue to recommend we follow the matrix for level 2. I think we've been doing that for the better part of the year. I don't think we need to take any action on that, but unless someone wants to offer a motion. Jeff, you had a question?
Couple questions. The Brewster observation well matters to us because we draw from the same lens, if you will, or the same aquifer.
We draw from the same lens, and that
Right.
typically, that Brewster observation well typically has the most accurate observation reporting. It has a more kind of real-world conditions of what we're seeing with the aquifer, the health of the aquifer.
And which well do we use for our observation well?
We use the one in Brewster, and there's one in Chatham at the bottom of Meeting House Road.
Meeting House Road, okay. And then on the overage for January and February, is there not a report that we can run that compares utilization by household, by meter, if you will, with an inquiry and see where the overage is, the average for that house for, over the last 3 or 4 years versus January and February? Because that may spark some investigative work by households. If I'm 30% over where I've been historically, and we can show them data, then we say, you guys ought to take a look, because it's really, if we're running water in the basement somewhere, it's such a waste of water, it's awful.
It is.
So I would ask, I'm asking, that if there's a report that Veolia could run, to have them run it, or you guys, or somebody.
So we run it in-house every month. So just because people are billed quarterly, we read every meter every month.
Okay.
And we do have like a top 50, the top 50 water users. If you have a major leak in your house, you're most likely going to elevate yourself to one of the top 50 water users. So we do look at that every single month.
Okay.
That's how we've been able to catch a couple of the leaks that we found.
Yeah.
But if they're just under that, it's really hard to say. I think as the temperature warms, it may show us, some more properties.
I'm not going to tell you your business, but maybe run the top 100, I don't know. I'm making it up.
There's certain limitations on the software too. So unless we went through, 8,000 accounts line by line and did a comparison.
Well, I don't want you to do that. I thought maybe you could run a computer, do it via the computer. Thanks.
Well, I just would echo what Jeff was saying. If it's possible to run the top 100, maybe we could explore that.
Yeah, we will look into it.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from the board or the public? Okay. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
Next item, public comments on the business agenda for anyone who wishes to make them now, or they can make them contemporaneously with the agenda items. Seeing none, we'll go right into the business agenda. The first is to consider special one-day alcohol licenses and entertainment licenses for the Chatham Historical Society for various dates that are specified. Kevin, welcome. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for having me this evening. So the Atwood Museum is having their 5th annual Music at the Atwood. In addition to that, we're also talking about our annual largest fundraiser, Evening to Remember. I'll start with the music at the Atwood. I know there was some concern last year about, how many programs that we're having. We have 6 concerts this year, and they're sort of spread out. We're doing 2, most of them are classical performances. 2 of them will be held at the First Congregational Church. 2 of them will be held in the Mural Barn at the property of the Atwood Museum, and the other 2 will be our outdoor concerts, under a tent, with transportation to and from to minimize the any parking issues that we may have for that. We've got it all set up so all concerts will begin at 6 o'clock with the doors or gates open at 5:30. With the exception of the 2 outdoor concerts, they should all wrap up by 7:30. The 2 outdoor concerts probably around 8 o'clock is our anticipated ending time of that. We no longer are offering or selling liquor at the indoor concerts. It's only the 2 outdoor concerts that we have things, and I think there's a map attached to your packet that you can see where they'll be located. So it's pretty much fairly similar to what we've had in the last few years, very successful, and we're very excited to be bringing it back again for 2026. In regards to our fundraiser, pretty much the same thing. It's our biggest fundraiser. The biggest difference this year is we netted about $25,000 less last year over the year before. We're not really sure why. There's a lot of competition. So the biggest change is that we're moving it from a Saturday to a Friday night because it's less competition for that particular night. We still have the same CBI and Wauquasit. Wauquasit will be donating liquor for the 2 bars at that event, and CBI will be supplying food. And then we will also have the Bart Weissman Trio performing some light jazz background music at that event. So, any questions?
So Kevin, in last year, there were no neighborhood complaints.
No, I know there was a complaint here before we started, but not that I know of,
Okay.
I mean, the second outdoor concert this year is kind of a celebration of 2 different performers for the 250th birthday of America. So that's sort of the theme, and it's not raucous, so.
Well, it looks like a very fine program in your brochure. I know you had an ad on this in the Chronicle. I saw that recently, too. The dates we'll specify in the motion. I don't think we need to repeat them in the presentation. Are there any comments or questions, or is there a motion that someone wants to read? There are 3 motions here. No, 2. One for entertainment licenses and one for one-day alcohol licenses. So,
Mr. Chair,
go ahead, Shereen.
I move to grant a special one-day alcohol license for all alcohol beverages to Christina Coscores I hope I got her name right.
Yeah.
Close. Of the Chatham Historical Society, Inc. for the following: July 10th, 2026, from 5 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. at 347 Stage Harbor Road. August 4th, 2026, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at 347 Stage Harbor Road. August 6th, 2026, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at 347 Stage Harbor Road.
Is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. I'll call the roll. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Next motion, Shereen?
Sure. I move to grant a special one-day entertainment license to Christina Coscores of the Chatham Historical Society, Inc. for the following: June 25th, 2026, from 6 to 7:30 p.m. at 650 Main Street, Chatham, for amplified live music. July 9th, 2026, from 6 p.m. to 7:30 at 347 Stage Harbor Road, Chatham, for amplified live music. July 10th, 2026, from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. at 347 Stage Harbor Road, Chatham, for amplified live music. July 16th, 2026, from 6 p.m. to 7:30 at 650 650 Main Street, Chatham, for amplified live music. August 4th, 2026, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at 347 Stage Harbor Road, Chatham, for outdoor amplified live music. August 6th, 2026, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at 347 Stage Harbor Road, Chatham, for outdoor amplified live music. And August 27th, 2026, from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. at 347 Stage Harbor Road, Chatham, for live amplified music.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. I'll call the roll. Ms. Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Dyken.
Aye.
Mr. Metters.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Good luck.
Thank you very
Kevin,
much.
Is this
Greatly
your
appreciate it.
final presentation to us?
Yes, next week will be my final day, but I'll be at the concert, so.
Well,
Thank you very
congratulations.
much. I greatly appreciate it.
Congratulations on your service to
Thank
the
you.
community. Thank you. Okay. Next, consider as Water and Sewer Commissioners the proposed grinder pump regulations revisions. The Water and Sewer Advisory Committee meeting took place yesterday, and there is a recommendation from them, but I'll turn to Mr. Faley. There is a revised version which staff presented today, and the Water and Sewer Committee made one modest recommendation yesterday, but go ahead, Rob.
Thank you, and sorry you have to hear me yet again.
That's all right.
So this is simply to expand Section 11 of Chatham's existing sewer rules and regulations to address recent decisions and to establish a path forward regarding the supply, reimbursement, and maintenance of grinder pumps. The language we used to develop the draft was similar to Harwich's language. We had town council review it, and Mr. Chair, as you mentioned yesterday, the Water and Sewer Advisory Committee approved the language with one modification. The last sentence of the second paragraph, they wanted to strike the word electrical. So it would read, will also be eligible for a one-time stipend to help offset costs of installing a grinder pump.
And that was voted unanimously. I know the vice chair of the committee is here if he wishes to say anything, or if anyone has any questions. Okay. So the board will, you can stay there, Rob. The board will recall that about a year ago, we adopted, I think as a policy, that we would provide a free grinder pump one time to those property owners who are required to connect to the sewer system and need a grinder pump to do so, as well as to reimburse property owners who had previously installed a grinder pump for the same purpose in the same amount of money. And these grinder pumps are worth something in the order of $6,700 or $7,000. You're getting them
Yes.
bulk from.
That's correct. We actually received their first delivery already, so they're ready to go.
Okay. And I would note also, because we did have a communication from a property owner who had installed a grinder pump previously. It was a different make. It has failed. And my reading of our policy and of this particular regulation is that property owner, that type of property would be eligible also for a free grinder pump, as though we were installing it anew. Secondly, they would get a $2,000 stipend to compensate for the installation costs. We used as proxy the cost of electrical tie-in, which is about $2,000. And with that, I have a question of town council, but I'll ask board members if they have any questions or comments first. Jeff?
The only comment I really have was, we suggest in the second paragraph a one-time stipend, and we know it's 2,000, why don't we just say 2,000?
Because it accounts for inflation. It's 2,000 in the first year, but it goes up
Oh, it
a
does.
certain percentage every year to account for inflation. yes.
Is it pegged to CPI or something?
It is. I forgot what the inflationary value was, but I think we projected out 30 years. We took like an average CPI over the past number of years. But we did lay out a table of the inflation.
And then I would refer to the table, you know.
That was in our vote last time, was the 2,000, wasn't the 2,000 mentioned specifically?
2,000 for the initial, for the first year, which would be
It
2,000.
was mentioned in our policy vote a year ago. We mentioned a dollar amount.
We did, 2,000.
Yeah. Do you want to offer some language, Jeff?
No, I would just substitute for the first year 2,000, and then abiding by the schedule that I believe I don't know if we've approved it or not, but the schedule that's been suggested, I mean, pegged to CPI. I mean, I don't know.
Why don't we just say at the end, instead of referencing a specific number, add at the end after the phrase grinder pump, strike the period and put a comma and say, as may be determined from time to time by the select board.
Well, that's fine.
Does that,
That's fine.
town council, do you want to, I do have a question for you, Jay. You have a better phrasing for that? We're looking at the second paragraph.
Second paragraph of
It says
which?
one-time stipend at the end.
The last sentence.
Yeah. So again, the proposed language that I heard you say, Dean, was,
As may be determined from time to time by the select board. So rather than specify a 2,000.
I would probably say, after stipend, put a comma, in an amount as may be determined from time to time by the select board.
Okay, I
Fine.
like that.
Good.
Close comma, and then, yep.
And I have a question for you.
Sure.
So from the version that we originally had that you were given to look at, it looks as though, in addition to some other edits you made, which are fine, you added subject to appropriation, which I think is appropriate. But with respect to the $2,000 stipend, you also inserted, I think this is from you, as may be feasible. And I had a concern about that because when we adopted, and you weren't part of it, but I don't think, when we adopted the policy that we were going to give this stipend of $2,000 with inflation, it really wasn't conditioned on anything. So I feel like the phrase "as may be feasible," presents the town with the opportunity to weasel out of the payment. That's, hate to use a better word, but that's a word lawyers use.
Aren't you glad you have us around?
I just wondered if you could explain that phrase, why you put that in.
I think it I think the as may be feasible was probably in recognition of the fact that it may not in all circumstances be possible to provide the grinder pump. So, and I don't know what the technical issues, I'm just trying to think about why, because that's certainly my language added. And just trying to account for all possibilities where there may not be either the technical means to do it. I'm fine if you strike it.
Yeah.
I put it in there because we like to have
Give us some flexibility.
as much flexibility as possible, because not all systems might be able to accommodate a grinder pump, for example.
Okay. Jeff, you had
Well, yeah, I would be in favor of striking it. I think we made a commitment. I would start the sentence with eligible property owners. Eligibility also conditioned on whether it's possible or not. I mean,
Sure.
so.
I would keep subject to appropriation.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, for sure.
Because we can't do anything without that.
Yep, okay.
And
I would agree with that, but I think we made a commitment.
Okay. Shireen, did you have something?
I'm agreeing with Jeff. I think this is a commitment to help what could arguably be a very expensive process for some property owners in town.
Stuart?
Sure. This started way before my arrival, but my understanding is the grinder pump issue or supplying grinder pumps to these folks wasn't really new. It was part of the original plan? Okay.
There was language in the 2009, whatever it was.
Yeah, good. And for Rob, I had a question. What do these folks do? Like the storm we had, we lost power for whatever days, depending who you were. What do these folks do with their grinder pumps? They obviously don't work, right?
Yeah, unless they have generators.
Unless they, well, obviously, but if you don't.
There are companies that will go around with portable generators and evacuate their storage tank with the pump.
And, okay,
They have a battery that keeps them going for like 24 hours.
Not unless it's something part of the house's electrical system.
Okay.
and who's maintaining these pumps?
The property owner. So
The manufacturer?
a new pump will be under a 5-year warranty,
Yeah.
provided that the licensed utility installer has gone through the certification process.
Oh, yeah.
Which we brought FR Mahoney into town last month to certify a number of LUIs.
Oh, okay. So there's,
So beyond the 5-year warranty period, it would be on the property owner.
right, and there's a cadre of folks that can do that somewhat locally?
Absolutely, yes.
And that's, and are those listed, those maintenance folks, are they listed on our website, the town?
We have the LUIs listed on our website, and most of them would be capable of doing some maintenance on it.
Doing some, so,
Stuart,
so
on that issue, we, work with Rob and his team because we have to be careful not to necessarily be promoting one or the other.
Sure.
We were comfortable with where Rob ended up on this. We've been battling to find the right line to be able to provide this amenity while still being on the right side of the anti-aid amendment. And I think with Rob's team and some other good examples around the Cape, we were able to find a good balance that addressed all those issues without us getting involved in promoting one entity over another, for example.
right, but putting, this is more of a question, putting a list on the town's website doesn't give us any,
I didn't have a super big concern as long as we were just providing it for information's sake and we weren't favoring one or over the other. And if others show up and say, hey, I do this work too, I would be inclined to recommend that we add them if they're local.
yeah. And the requests for pumps, I remember some months ago I had asked about this, is that something folks can now come into, or they can fill out the request form online, or they can come into your office and?
Either. We haven't put it online yet. We have to wait for this to be adopted into
Yep.
the sewer rules and regulations, but yeah, I would imagine.
Somebody just goes in and
the next
fills it?
week or two, we'd
Yeah, they fill out a form at your office and that starts the process. And for those folks out there that may lose power, they may want to get a plan together for getting a generator because they're going to, if there's, how many pumps do you have out there? A couple hundred?
There are already probably 100 in town.
And then
that people installed on their own.
Right, and then the prospect is for upwards of 1,000.
Over the next 30 years, yeah, there'll be over 1,000.
Yeah, I would be getting on. Word to the wise. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. If there's nothing else from the board, I see Elaine Gibbs. You have a question or comment, Elaine?
Yes, I do. I have been very vocal about this grinder pump policy and that I believe that it's selectively giving financial benefit to certain groups when there are many different situations regarding the sewer system that affect all of us that have resulted in huge bills that are not being remedied. I would also ask, I missed it at the beginning, so I'm not sure, but if any of the select board members are going to be receiving grinder pumps, select board members have recused themselves for far less, where there's no financial impact. So I think for the public, we should know if any of the board members are going to be receiving grinder pumps.
Okay, thank you. I don't see any other public comments. Is there any more discussion from the select board?
Are you going to respond to that? I'm asking a question, and if you don't want to answer it, fine.
I mean, I'd leave that up to the individual members, Elaine, and I'm not
I
hearing.
mean, I'll respond.
Mr. Dykens is getting a grinder pump, and he should have
Elaine-
recused himself.
No,
Elaine,
Ms. Gibbs, if I might. I've consulted with town council and other council on this issue, and I applied with a sewer plan years before we ever did a grinder pump plan. So to think that I am going to sit here and pass a grinder pump policy to inure to my benefit is ridiculous. My plan was applied for years before we even considered this. So, and I need a grinder pump, just like anybody else in town, I need a grinder pump. And Jay, you can speak to this issue as well, please.
I'll speak to it only briefly and only because you
Well, perhaps,
asked me to, Jeff. But, you know, in the basic sense of things, in terms of ethics, I'm just going to speak to it in basic generalities. When there's not a peculiar or unique benefit, then, and the benefits are spread more widely, then there's not really a conflict issue there. That's like similar to the tax situations where we vote on taxes that apply to any number of people. I'm not going to comment on specifics of Jeff's situation because that's highly confidential. But I certainly supported Jeff's approach to this, and we did look at it very carefully. And Jeff looked at it very carefully, even outside of speaking with me as well.
any other comments from the board? Stuart, did you, Corey, did you have anything?
I didn't know if, I guess just to clarify, no, I'm not getting a grinder pump. I'm actually on my own IA system, so I guess for.
Well, then I'll clarify, I'm not getting a grinder pump that I know of.
Okay. All right. So before us is the proposed amendment to the town sewer regulations as recommended by the Water and Sewer Advisory Committee and the DPW Director, and as further edited this evening with the language that Town Council offered. I won't repeat it, but I think, Kathy, you have it. And that had to do with the stipend amount, and also we will strike the phrase "as may be feasible," and we'll introduce that sentence with "subject to appropriation." So with that, I'll ask for a motion.
Move approval.
And it's been
Second.
moved and seconded, and I'll call the roll. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you. Next item. Was I offline when I called the roll?
I didn't notice.
We just called the roll on that sewer item, and it was 5-0 in favor of it on a motion by Mr. Dykens, seconded by Mr. Smith, which included the revisions that were presented this evening. Next is to consider 2026 annual town meeting articles for review and vote to place and/or recommend. And I'm going to take out of order as the first item, number 6, implementation of the residential tax exemption delay. This is an article submitted by the Finance Committee in a memo dated March 2nd. And I believe the chair of the Finance Committee, there he is, Stephen Daniel, is there to offer this article for the board to consider placement. Stephen, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you all. First, I'm going to beg your forbearance as I spent too much time in an MRI tube this afternoon. I'm still a little wobbly, so bear with me. I think, well, I'm certain you all have a copy of the language, and I think we foreshadowed this variously at the budget summit and I think a joint meeting of both committees. What we are seeking is for select board support for an article that was put forth by a unanimous vote of the Finance Committee to see if the town would delay implementation of the residential tax exemption for at least 1 year. The purpose is to allow more time for the town government and residents to learn about the financial and legal costs and opportunities involved with adopting the residential tax exemption, and to evaluate whether there are more targeted means of providing tax relief to full-time resident taxpayers in need. Tangential to that, I have created a working group that's modeled on the work we did on attainable and affordable housing back in January of 2020, the intent of which to thoroughly study this issue and present thoughts and recommendations to the select board for their consideration. Members of that working group include Barb Madison, Andy Young, Eric Whiteley, John Papalardo, and myself. And we're going to get going once we drop our report to the warrant towards the end of the month. I think it's pretty clear since the September tax classification hearing that things have come up that weren't necessarily fully considered at that time, including the impact on the overlay, prospective impact on the overlay. The challenges presented by the RTE to LLCs, limited liability corporations and their beneficiaries, the impact on the roughly 1,700 homes owned in Chatham by trusts, and the prospective impact on year-round renters as their landlords seek to recapture any prospective increase in their taxes as a result of the RTE. We're also slightly concerned, having heard concern expressed by local 501c3s about the prospective impact of the RTE on not-for-profits in town. So with that as background, we are seeking your support to post this to the warrant. I will add that if you elect not to, extend it to us as a courtesy that we do have a petition article signed by all 9 members of the Finance Committee, Rob Stello, and Mary Beth Daniel, that we're prepared to submit for consideration in the event you elect not to extend the courtesy. So that's what I have. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Stephen. So this is a request from a committee of the town asking us to put something on the warrant. The article that is being proposed asks the town meeting to request the select board to delay implementation of the residential tax exemption for at least 1 year. I'll have some comments on it in a moment, but I wanted to just ask the board members if they have any questions or comments. Stephen,
Let me just jump in very quickly, and to be clear, this is not binding on the select board. It would be a sense of town meeting, which you guys can treat as you wish.
Yeah. Stuart.
Sure. I don't have any trouble supporting the placement on the of this petition, if you will, to town meeting, on the town meeting warrant. I think it's kind of silly if people get 10 votes. They don't need to go through that exercise. I don't have any trouble with that. So we can disagree on the merits. Mine's clear. You know, I'm doing whatever I can to assist those people that are trying to live here and stay in their homes, and those are retired folks, working class, what have you. This is one of those statutory opportunities that, you know, it's not real prevalent. You know, it's rare we get this type of an opportunity to help these folks, like other communities on Cape Cod have chosen to do. The other thing, and then I'll let some others speak, but the other thing is, we have one more step in this, if I'm not mistaken, right?
In September, when we do the classification hearing, we haven't formally adopted it.
Right. So
FY '27.
Right. So I guess where I was headed is, it's going, you know, while we're moving forward, the final decision will be in September, and so those folks have, you know, a fair amount of time to come up with those arguments. You know, I hear the words like at least 1 year. That concerns me. So, like I said, I can go into detail at, you know, at the appropriate time onto why this is helpful to those people who are trying to stay here. And like any statute, there are shortcomings. There's no perfect statute out there. We just saw a bylaw that's less than perfect. So that's where I stand. But I do support putting it on the warrant.
Corey?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, I mean, mechanically, I see no need to do this through petition. I'm happy to support it, to place it on the warrants. No issue whatsoever. And probably, you probably shouldn't even say this, but I'm kind of more on the fence of being one of those at least 1 year delay, because we've identified some areas of concern. This is a very divisive, topic. And at the very least, I want to flesh out some of the identified items better, get more clarity, understand the impact, to get a crystal clear picture of what this could do, and then, move it on appropriately. But a year delay is definitely an appropriate thing, and I would support both placing and recommendation for this article.
Any other comments from the board? Shereen?
I too are fine with putting it on the warrant. However, I stand by my belief that this is a benefit to the town, and that the decision will be made in September. And I think we'll be surprised as to what the vote will be, in the positive at town meeting. So I will not be supporting the article.
Jeff?
Yeah, I certainly support its placement on the warrant. I don't, the esteemed and stalwart members of our finance committee needn't submit a petition. Certainly, we should place it. And the language in this bothers me a bit. That at least 1 year, that the least bothers me. I think that it is a tool in our toolbox, and I will be very interested to hear town meeting's opinion, their vote on this, knowing that this is not a binding petition, but it's indicative. So those are my thoughts. Certainly would vote to place, and I would vote not to recommend at this point. That doesn't mean that the efforts of the subcommittee and the finance committee looking at other, perhaps more targeted means of relief for our taxpayers would certainly get a warm ear here. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm certainly going to support this, given my position in opposition to the RTE, and I'll support recommendation as well if there's a motion seconded to take that particular vote. And I would encourage your working committee to consider something that I know Stephen, you and I discussed, and I posited that one other approach that I think might be more targeted would be for the town to file a home rule petition with the legislature to expand the purview of the Tax Assistance Committee beyond just helping those property owners that have disabilities or are elderly, to include anyone in financial need. I would think that would receive favorable support up on Beacon Hill. But that seems to me another tool. That's a process that takes a year or two to, probably at least 2 years to get done. I don't think it's an impossible idea. Anyway, so I think there's sentiment here to place it, so I'm going to ask for a motion to place.
Move to place.
Second.
Moved and seconded to place. I'll call the roll. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. I'm sorry, I neglected, I don't see any public comment. I'm sorry. Yes, if you'd like to come forward. So it is placed, unless somebody
Thank you.
says
I
something.
appreciate that. I know the committee will appreciate that. I do have one comment after this
Yeah,
public participant speaks. I'd like to render, please.
Mr. Stello, and then Mr. Phillips.
Yes, hi, Rob Stello, 159 Tideville Lane. A few things, I understand I had two of you make concerns about, you have a problem with this thing waiting at least a year, meaning it could go longer. I find it very disturbing to hear last meeting they were going to go 30%, and they go down to 20%, and then I heard the comment that we could go as high as 50%. On the other side of this coin, it's very disturbing to hear that, to be honest with you. I think this is, again, very decisive. I find a situation where you just blanket say anybody from a certain point down is going to get a tax break. Not everybody needs that tax break. The people who really need it should get it. The people who, we should sit down, search them out, and I don't think anybody's got any problem with doing that. But to do a blanket thing, it just really is not the right way to go. One comment I'd like to make is, because this has come up with the sewer, just now with Mr. Dykens on the sewer, I've heard this thing in the last meeting I was at, that someone criticized about people on the board getting a break with a tax break. I just like to say, as a citizen, I find that very embarrassing, and I'm kind of even ashamed that people would even bring that up, that you're our board, you vote on things, you guys are citizens of this town, and I don't see anybody doing anything for good for a personal reason. And I got to tell you, I'm really upset even hearing people even making that comment. I feel that's very personal, and I've seen this attack happen many times. You wonder why good people don't run for office. It's just bull, to be honest with you. And I just can't believe that anybody with other nerve even bring that up. You guys are right here. It's an open meeting. Nobody's walking out with millions of dollars in their pocket. But, you know, to make comments like that, I just have to tell you, I find degrading. But I still go back to this issue that I feel like, you know, as a whole, I think we're all trying to do good. We want to help the people here. But I see it on one end going one way, and one end it goes another way. There's a lot of factors that should be looked into. Waiting a year, especially with this finance committee, I think they do a great job. It doesn't hurt to sit down and try to do it the right way, or making sure we cover all the bases. And I would be really disappointed if we don't do that, because this has been thrown in. I realize that everyone wants to do it in a hurry, but you know what? There's a lot of things to consider here. So I just hope you take that under advisement. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Phillips.
Brian Phillips, 374 Orleans Road. There is like a lot of misinformation and not understanding of this that's creating some tension. Initially, it was put out there that, you know, the break even to 3.4 million or whatever, those people that are year-round residents would not be getting the tax exemption. All year-round residents are getting the tax exemption. So if you've lived here, if you are year-round tax resident, and your house is worth 4.2 million, you're going to be paying about $1,330 less than the summer residents or the non-residents. So that was the first, that was the first concern I kind of heard from the.
That's not correct.
That's not correct.
There is, if you're over the tipping point, you're going to pay, even if you are a year-round taxpayer.
I just stopped by the assessor's office, and this is what she told me, and she did give me a printout.
But that's, well, I don't know about that, but that,
not right.
I can't speak to that, but it's not accurate.
Not accurate.
There are people who are year-round residents that are going to pay if their value of their property is in excess of, what's the figure? Was
It's
it
3.4 million.
I thought it was 3.425, I thought it was.
It depends ultimately on where the exemption rate is set,
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so
but it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 3.2 to 3.4
Yeah, there you go.
right now.
So there are some that are going to be affected.
If you're rear round and your assessed value of your home is north of 3.5, call it.
So let's say
And you're-
4 million.
You're not going to get a tax break.
I was just at the Board of Assessors,
Okay,
and that's what she told me.
You're not.
So I guess maybe we
I
should.
really don't want to confuse the issue even more,
Okay,
Brian,
so-
it's being confused.
You're going to pay more. You're not going to get a break, and you're going to wind up paying more. It's not a great high number of people. I'm just telling you that.
Okay, that's just my.
I just wanted to.
I apologize.
correct the
Maybe
record.
we should
No,
look
that's-
into it a little more, because that's how it was explained to me at the.
Did
all
you
right.
have anything more?
And I guess I was, addressing other concerns as I went to the Finance Committee about, raising the rates of rentals. And I'm going to be doing the home rule petition, submitting what Orleans did, giving, people that rent out to year-round people the same sort of tax breaks from the board. So that was the two things.
This is the lease to locals.
Brian, we have that on our agenda. It's called Lease to Locals. If you look down into the agenda, we had talked about
It's
it
coming up this evening.
like 3 weeks ago, and we're going to be putting it on the warrant. So stick around and.
Well, I've seen it. This is just a little bit different of a program.
Okay, well,
Okay.
we'd like to hear from you.
All right, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Stephen, you had a comment.
I guess predominantly, I think what we just saw is emblematic of what we want to try to clarify. Because Jeff and Dean, you're correct. And I appreciate Mr. Phillips got his information, but that information is not correct. So I think one of the goals of the working group is going to be to really try to put this thing in real relief so people can fully understand what the issue is and how best to think about it. One of the primary concerns of the Finance Committee is that nowhere, and Stuart, I would refer back to your language, nowhere have we seen that the Select Board or the Assessing Board has defined who we're trying to help here. Is it single moms with kids under 12? Is it 80-year-olds who are on a fixed income? Is it people who've been here for, 100 years? Who are we? Who are they? And our sense is that to create a blanket policy that will affect one way or the other the tax rates of 7,500 roughly homes and down, without having defined what we're trying to achieve with the policy, is not a great way to create policy. The residential tax exemption was originally started and intended for the benefit of residents in large cities. Legislative history never contemplated realistically that it would spread to a kind of small rural community such as Chatham. Obviously, it's spreading. It's spreading out west in Great Barrington. But we just look forward to the opportunity to really try to dive into this thing. And it's going to include, conversations with the select board too, to understand the thinking and is there a way to sharpen this tool? So it's not such a blunt instrument.
Okay, thank you. So
that's what I got.
It is placed, and this is the point where I would ask, I don't want to embarrass anyone on the board. I mean, I'll make it awkward for people on the board. I will entertain a motion to recommend, and a second if someone wants to offer it. I could offer it myself, but again, I know the sentiment of, a majority of the board is in the opposite direction from me, but.
I just had one.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you don't mind. Sorry, I just had one comment to Stephen. I understand what you're saying. What I'd like to point out is the select board for years has enacted this policy in other cases where we give, I'll call it grants to folks using our elementary or preschool. We just give them blanket grants. And they're not vetted for need. They simply get a break. So this isn't new, and we've been doing it in other cases for some time. But I understand your points. Thank you.
Corey?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, I think we're all adults up here, and I think we're all free to have our own opinion. So I'm going to make a motion that we recommend the article.
Is anyone, I'm about to second it, but I don't want to place anyone in an awkward position. Does anyone have a concern about it? Okay, I'll second that motion.
No one's going to be an awkward.
So it's moved and seconded to recommend, and I'll call the roll. Ms. Davis?
No.
Mr. Dykens?
No.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
No.
And the chair votes aye. So it's 2-3. Yes,
All
Carol?
right, well, thank you all. We appreciate the courtesy.
Stephen, can you hold, please, Steve, for a second?
Yep, sure.
Yes, sure, Carolyn, I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
Carolyn McClellan, South Chatham. I just want to say something in response. I mean, we've been working on this for a while and a lot of different opinions, but just in reference to something that Stephen had said in regards to the history of this type of policy being meant for bigger communities. But I did want to point out that it is part of the Seasonal Communities Act. It's not mandatory, but it's listed as an option for the specific reason that the people that live in these kind of communities that have accelerated growth, the year-round local population has that burden of coming up with that money for their increased value on their properties, whether they have it or not. So it's definitely meant for relief of people in these types of communities because it's unprecedented in terms of their financial burden right now. I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you, Carolyn. Stephen, I had cut you off, but.
That's fine. I just wanted to thank you all for listening to us and for the courtesy extended to the committee. So we appreciate it.
Thank you. So it is placed and the recommendation is 2-3. Okay, next item is the Chatham Municipal Airport Federal Fiscal Year 2026 Capital Improvement Plan, CIP, a design aircraft study. This is continued from the meeting of February 10th. And who is presenting this? Is it Huntley? Welcome, Huntley.
Good evening, and thank you for having me back. I appreciate that. The reason I'm here is because it was essentially tabled last time, and I I'm looking again for your support and recommendation of this article for the warrant. I think, as we all know, that, excuse me, over the last few years, the operations of turbine aircraft has increased to a point where we have decided that it's important to have a study done to see what kind of mitigations or changes might be necessary at the airport for safety reasons, and to also reduce the possibility of liability should something untoward happen based on the aircraft coming in. We have waited to do this because we wanted to look at the average over the last 4 years to see where this number of operations that the FAA suggests, which is 500 operations, anything exceeding that, triggers a look-see. The fact that we have been exceeding that, and over the last few years, is, raised the issue of having this study done. So I'm asking for a variety of reasons. One is the liability issue, that we want to protect ourselves and not ignore this, that, we have these number of operations, which, by the way, just to review, 500 operations is really 250 flights, 250 aircraft, because one operation is a takeoff and a landing is another operation. So that, I think people have to understand that it's not 500 airplanes coming in, it's half that. So I would ask that for the $7,500, and by the way, there was a nice summary put out today of the article. I don't know if you have it in your packet, because it was, I just saw it late this afternoon, and I sent an email back to the town manager saying that I think it's good, I think I approve it. Oh, there it is, okay. And there was an edit that our consultant, Matt Karen, made in there to issue a change. I don't see where it is here, but it's
Huntley, it was 500 annual.
That's where the change was made.
He added the word annual?
Annual.
Okay.
Yeah. Instead of 500 operations, it's over 5 years. It's 500 annual operations. So I'm asking that to protect ourselves from liability for safety reasons, that you support this and recommend it for the warrant.
So this $7,500 would be the match.
It would be our local match.
Our contribution to receive $142,500 in state and federal grant monies for this study. I wanted to ask you, I like this redraft, which the town manager and Kathy worked on, I think. I think this is much better than the version which was in the packet.
Right.
Which I found very confusing. I wanted to ask you a question which might lead to a further edit on this. In conversation with you, or maybe a month or two ago, or shortly after you presented this for the first time, and I think even that night, back in February, I think you saw this study as offering the potential for possible accommodations that might lead to some restrictions as a possibility on these flights from these larger planes, whether they be time restrictions. I don't want to put words in your mouth. I think you were possibly talking about that. We could conceivably think about noise restrictions. Is that how you view this study as well? It's not just it's basically a safety study, right?
Yes.
And so you've got these planes coming in, and you want to make sure the airport is safe for everybody. And that may lead to some, that could lead to some recommendations to make some adjustments at the airport, but not just on the side of, I'll use the word accommodating these planes to make it safe for them to land and take off. But also, could it include the potential for restricting things like time or noise?
It would all be up to the FAA. Those airplanes, as for any airport, if an airplane can land at that airport, it's allowed to land. And restrictions would have to, the only, as I see it, there could be geometric changes, physical changes that they might recommend. We're very restrictive in that sense, that there's not really any room. We can't expand anywhere. The other might be operational changes that could happen. Timing, not time of landing, but just timing of approach and departure type of things. And there might be some other types of mitigations that could happen.
Well, what I was thinking of, and if you look at in the paragraph that says, and it's up on the screen here, it's the 4th paragraph. The study will the study will examine current operations, airport geometry, and safety areas, and document how existing conditions align with FAA safety guidance. The results may confirm the airport's current design aircraft classification or identify operational procedures, mitigation measures, or other alternatives for the FAA and the town to consider. I was just wondering if after the phrase mitigation measures, you might, just so it's clear to town meeting what they're voting on, whether you might include language such as, in a parenthesis, including possible time or noise restrictions.
I don't think we can do that.
Okay.
I think, as I said, it would be up to the FAA to make determinations of that sort.
Shireen?
I understand that it would be up to the FAA to make the determinations, but we are the town, and we can definitely voice our concerns or what the public is actually. So in saying this at our town meeting, and I would imagine when this study is done, that feedback would be from the Airport Commission itself that has listened to the community about some of these things about, time of day, landing and whatnot, that would, if we don't say anything, the FAA is going to probably do the most ultimate thing they're going to do. But if they know that the town has specific concerns or wants certain things addressed, at least it's in the document for the FAA to consider. And I think that, having dealt with government authority on a lot of regulatory processes, if you're not putting it in there, if you're not saying it, it's not going to be considered. So I think what I'm hearing from Dean is if we actually put the language into the warrant article, it informs better.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry.
Informs better the public, but also can inform how the study is framed for recommendation to the FAA.
Yeah, I think that's important. It is in the explanation of the warrant article, which is not the action part of the article, but I'm inclined to support the article because it's a safety-oriented measure. I don't believe it's an intent to expand the airport. I really don't believe that. And at the same time, I really would like to be able to sell this to town meeting, and I think if they understand that this is kind of an open-ended study, and it's not just, hey, let's do everything we can. It's not at all. Let's do everything we can to make it possible for these large planes to come in.
No, that's not at all what it is.
No. But it includes considerations such as might lead to any FAA-approved restrictions that we might want to propose. So
I don't want to give the citizens any kind of false hope that if you put wording like that in, time restrictions or whatever, that they think, oh, well, if we pass this, then the FAA is going to put time restrictions on or anything like that. And so I think the wording, I'm fine with it, but I think the wording has to be very carefully placed.
Well, maybe we could say something like mitigation measures or possible restrictions. Just leave it like that without specifying time. I think Jeff was first and then Stuart.
No, I would suggest you insert language like that. I'm very much in favor of it. I think ultimately we'll have a notion of what we can do, given the fact that we have 500 operations from larger craft. What can we do to make it a safer place? Because we can't stop them from coming.
Right.
So what can we do to mitigate and having language that reflects concerns by the townspeople and by Chatham itself, I think is important. And it's important for the FAA to know. So somewhere I think we ought to say restrictions or possible restrictions or something of that ilk. And in terms of time of operation and noise, I view that more as a purview of the Airport Commission itself rather than the FAA.
Yeah,
but I'm not an expert here. But.
I will say that we've been, so far, very successful with our fly-friendly program and with the charter operators not coming in between 10 and 7 in the morning, 10 p.m. and 7 in the morning.
More successful, not completely successful.
No,
that's okay. I get it. Yeah. Thanks.
Stuart?
Thanks, Huntley.
Thank you, Jeff. Stuart?
Sure, thanks.
Is Matt Caron on the line? Is he? No, okay.
I'm sorry, who?
I was wondering if.
No, he had another
Okay.
meeting.
Stuart, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sure. You know, I just got this, well, I guess it was today, 4 o'clock, the new explanation over the old one, after I just finished reading the old one, or the previous one. You know, I think we're just, I kind of want to follow up on what Shireen's concerns were, because I think they're spot on to what we're trying to get our hands around with this airport. And I'm not sure we're all on the same page, frankly. And that RFP, the RFP that the Airport Commission will be developing for this study needs to come before this board so we can ensure that the concerns that have been brought up here are actually put into that document. Because this is all, this, you know, this is great for explanation, but it doesn't require anything. And we're simply not getting this problem solved. And the problem I'm mentioning is the neighbors concerned on the expansion of the airport. Some things, you know, it's not like, as I've explained before, it's not like we're expanding, I hope, or lengthening the runway, but the expansion of the operations and these planes using this airport more regularly than they have in the past and impacting the people who live here. You know, I think Shireen's correct. The FAA is going to read that RFP, the last draft I saw, and think that we're okay with the way that airport runs. And so I think that RFP needs to come before this board so we can make sure we're comfortable with it before we endorse something to go on the town meeting warrant. I didn't support this. I felt that the funding should come out of the revolving fund, and now that we put $50,000 extra into the revolving fund this year, that we can accommodate that. But, you know, frankly, I'm negotiable on that if we can see that RFP and ensure that our concerns are met there. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess I would respond this way. I've been on this board for 11 years. I don't want to be an airport commissioner. That's why we have an airport commission. I really don't want the board functioning. We don't run the airport. They do. I think, you know, you serve as our liaison. If this board has concerns or recommendations, they can be communicated either in the form of a document, a memo from the select board to the airport commission, or through you as liaison, or whoever is liaison. So I don't really feel I need to see the RFP. I don't really think that's my job. That's how
And I'll just respond. We have gotten ourselves in this situation by accepting grants that nobody here reviewed. the Airport Commission did, but the airport has an impact on this entire community, not only on the neighbors, but there's legitimate concern that it's going to turn into a Nantucket airport, accommodating the folks that come here for the weekends at CBI and charter airplanes. And, my perspective is, and I think it's accurate, the historical normal use of this airport is a single-engine, propeller-driven aircraft, which everybody, I think, supports. So, I think that not looking at the RFP is paramount to not looking at any of these grants and understanding what we're getting ourselves into before we do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. Jeff?
The fact is, and Huntley, correct me if I'm wrong, but we cannot prevent the larger winged aircraft, the 500 operations that we're concerned about from landing at our airport if they can do so safely. What this is requesting is a study to ensure that those are going to continue because we can't prevent them, but to make sure they do it with utmost safety. That is what I think we're asking the town to approve for a paltry $7,500. I agree with Dean. We're not the Airport Commission. You guys are the Airport Commission and the RFP. However, listen to what Stuart's saying and Shireen is saying, that the RFP ought to reflect some local concerns and not just a rubber stamp of the Airport Commission saying, it should reflect local concerns. It should. And I agree with Dean. We shouldn't be in the business of reviewing, RFPs for the Airport Commission. We're not in that business. But I'm going to support the article because $7,500 is small potatoes to buy an opinion from the FAA on how we could improve, perhaps augment the safety in our airport to accept these planes that are coming anyway. They're coming anyway.
Yeah.
What can we do to provide the utmost in safety for their arrival? We're not going to prevent them. So that's where I land on this thing.
Thank you.
It seems fairly black and white to me, to be honest with you. Notwithstanding local concerns, because it's loud and noisy, and hours of operation have improved. I can testify because I live in the neighborhood. But,
Speaking of the RFP, we do have a scope of work for this, which has been, I think it's in one of our minutes from earlier this year. Not this year, but fiscal year. I think maybe back in the fall. But we do have a scope of work that was presented to us, which was also discussed with the FAA and MassDOT. I can send that to the board tomorrow if you'd like, so you can read it.
Well, the scope of work would have been helpful to see it here, so we know what we're getting ourselves into. I disagree. The airport their statutory responsibilities are clear, but our responsibilities is not only to the airport, it's to the entire community. And so it's not as though we can just say, the Airport Commission's job, and we don't have any role in that. We do have a role in that. We absolutely do. We appoint them. So I would suggest that we delay this until we can, at a very minimum, see the scope of work to ensure that we're not opening more of Pandora and making a bad situation worse.
The only thing that this study will do will determine whether or not we say as a design group 1 airport or a design group 2 airport. That's all this study does.
I want to see that in a piece of paper that has some legal standing other than this, because it doesn't have anything. Even the explanation at the town meeting warrant doesn't have anything.
I think if any board member wants to see it, as Huntley said, he can provide it. I'll say one other thing, and I'm going to turn to Shireen and then Corey. The town manager has to sign any contracts for the airport. So if the town manager, who listens to us every week, thinks there's a question or concern, she can bring it to this board. But again, this board has spent too much time on the airport in the last 11 years, and I'm not going to spend the rest of my 2 months as chairman dealing with the airport. This is going to be just voted on tonight, one way or the other. That's how I feel about it. Shireen?
Well, then I'm going to have to abstain from it because I think that more information would be helpful. And I think that for me, Huntley, I support what the airport is doing. But again, I think we have to, we can take a stronger lead in what we say to FAA, MassDOT, and the other people that are funding the grants that we get and whatnot. And if we do, then it it at least gives the public the idea, or it actually can explain better to the public, hey, look, we told them we want this, but this is the way it goes with FAA. I just think that's, I just think this is going to be a tough vote. I mean, last year, we had a couple of tough votes.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of tough votes.
And I think that the more that we can explain to the public and assure them that, yes, the commission is working towards the greater good for the community, as well as advocating for aviation in the town, then that it would be what I'd like to see too. So I'll vote to place this, but I think I'm going to abstain from recommending it, unfortunately.
Corey, you wanted to speak, please.
I'm going to try. So, yeah, placing it, no problem whatsoever. The recommendation to support it, there's a couple of hurdles that I see coming forth. One is, you've got Group A that thinks that we're asking a question to truly understand better the safety, the functionality of the airport, in the true spirit of what a lot of people feel that, support the airport. You got Group B who think that we're asking these questions to get around some other hurdles that will allow certain elements of the airport to maybe expand or be used in a way that people have objected to over time. There's a trust element that we've been hurdling for years now.
Oh, yeah.
We see that at town meeting. Personally, I would like to, I am going to support it because I do think getting the data is going to be beneficial. And hoping it falls in line with more of Group A versus the Group B, that we can have a better informed conversation. I do think we should have some say, or we should be, provide our input. We've heard concerns for quite a while, I've been on the board for quite some time, and, there's a lot of concerns, they're legitimate concerns, it should be part of the conversation. But I guess my question is, there's no guarantee this is gonna pass town meeting. I think for the 7,500, I think we should pass it and move it forward and collect the data.
Yeah.
But if town meeting says nope, no go, thumbs down, where do we go from there?
I don't either.
Mr. Harrison has answered that
I don't know what
question.
the rationale for them to defeat it would be. I mean, to find out and get the information, to me, seems tantamount to rejecting it.
Would it be clear if town meeting rejects it, because we're asking for 7,500 for our share, 142,005, granted to us. If that fails, if we wanted to do the study, does that mean then we as a town, we need to fork over 150 out of our own pocket? Or are we still eligible to fund that 72,500?
I think I could take it out of the revolving fund if I had to, but this fell under the because we're dealing with the FAA and MassDOT, it fell under the capital piece of the legislation, so,
All right, well, thank you.
I just would point out that I think it was just last year was the first time that an airport request was rejected at town meeting. In the prior
2 years.
Twice? Prior 9 years, every time.
Yep.
I mean, we heard from vocal opponents of those previous articles. They passed overwhelmingly. Okay, anyone else, is there a motion on this to place?
Mr. Chairman, I move to place.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to place, so call the roll. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Is there a motion to recommend?
I move to recommend, Mr.
Is there a
Chairman.
second? I'll second it. Moved and seconded to recommend. I'll call the roll. Ms. Davis?
Abstain.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
No.
And the chair votes aye, so it's 3-1-1. So it's recommended. Okay, thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Huntley. Next item is the Home Rule petition to allow year-round housing occupancy restrictions and attainable housing restrictions to be held in perpetuity under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 184, Section 31. And this is going to be presented by Gloria McPherson. There she is. Welcome, Gloria.
Hi, everyone. So I have 4 housing-related warrant articles before you tonight. The first one, which is a home rule petition, really derived from the fact that the town of Chatham accepted seasonal communities at the last town meeting. Seasonal communities allows us to do attainable housing restrictions and year-round housing restrictions, which were not really enabled under Massachusetts general laws until seasonal communities. And so while that's really great for the community, because we really do need a range of housing opportunities, including attainable units up to 200% AMI, and year-round units that don't necessarily have an income restriction. The one issue with that is that typically, under Mass General laws, unless it fits in with an exemption, a restriction has a term of a maximum of 30 years. And so as we see the CHOP properties restrictions becoming up for, to expire, it becomes a little bit more important when we start thinking about doing these new types of restrictions, like attainable restrictions and year-round restrictions, so that we can guard our public investment. So if we put town money into it, we want to know that we have these restrictions in perpetuity. And so this home rule petition would actually seek to give attainable and year-round housing occupancy restrictions as defined in seasonal communities, which was accepted by the town, the same rights and benefits as the other restrictions that are enumerated in Mass General Law, Chapter 184, Section 31, those same rights to be held in perpetuity. And I have actually, if I can share my screen, I actually have some updates to, can you guys see that? Is it showing up on your?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. So there were a couple of edits that were made by town council that did not make it into the packet. It's specifically, I think you can see like a couple of red lines over here, which are just kind of minor things. When I wrote section 1, I actually took it word for word from the section of the statute that allows affordable housing restrictions to be held in perpetuity and just changed the language to make it for attainable and year-round. And then town council added section 2, just to clarify that even though we're asking for attainable and year-round housing restrictions to be able to be held in perpetuity in Chatham, that we would not want them to be necessarily held or endorsed by the EOHLC, the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, which is the agency that's in charge of affordable housing restrictions. So it's just a way of differentiating these from the process and procedure of the state approving and holding these restrictions.
Could you, Gloria, we can't really read that from the screen. Could you read the edits? There was one above 2 words, I think, in the second line.
So section 1, notwithstanding the restrictions set forth and defined in Mass General Laws, Chapter 184, Section 31, the town of Chatham may expend funds for the purchase of or otherwise acquire, and then what was added was, or may convey.
Okay.
Year-round housing occupancy restrictions and attainable housing restrictions. So the or may convey. And then there's a brief part right here that says, originally the language said whether or not stated in the form of a restriction, easement, covenant, and the or not was stricken. I don't think that matters one way or another. The or not's in the original language anyway.
Okay.
So section 2, which is the brand new part that was added by town council. Maybe I can make this bigger on your screen. Is it making it bigger?
That is bigger, but I think you should read it still.
Okay, I'm happy to do that. Section 2, which this entire section is newly added, any restriction contemplated and executed hereunder shall not require the approval or execution of the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities as successor to the Department of Housing and Community Development, as may otherwise be required under Section 32 of Chapter 184 of the General Laws.
Okay. The only thing I would also, if you drop down the motion, I think what's printed as the motion is incorrect. It's the motion, I think, that was carried from another article. This has to do with the acceptance of property, so I don't think that motion will have to be revised. But there it is. There's the article. Unless you had anything more in this, Gloria, we'll take questions or. Okay, any questions or comments from Gloria?
Move to place.
All right, I move to place.
Second.
Moved and seconded to place. And I'll call a roll on that. I don't see any other comments. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Is there a motion to recommend?
Move to recommend, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Moved and seconded. We'll call the roll. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters? Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Okay, so we're done with that one. Next, Gloria. This is acceptance of a bequest from the estate of Priscilla Ford of the property at 63 George Ryder Road. I think you're presenting this one as well, or is that it?
Yeah,
I was planning to, but if someone else wants to, feel free.
It has you down here on my notes, so this is the Pat Ford's property.
So
It
before, I
is.
just wanted to call to the board's attention, so there is an updated version that was handed out tonight, if you want to look under your.
Where is that?
Yep, got it, okay, thank you.
Where is the updated version of that?
It's in,
Yeah, I don't think I got that.
So I have the updated version on the screen here.
Yeah,
So
okay.
you can, and I'm happy to read the additional language that was added. So very briefly, Pat Ford, Priscilla Ford, passed in 2023. I think the report says May, but it may have been April, actually, of 2023. It took a full year and a month for the will to be adjudicated in probate and a representative appointed. And then it took another year for the heirs to take their personal items out of the property, do a little cleanup, make sure that they had everything they wanted. I understand they live across the country, so it was a really difficult thing for them to fly in and do a little work, and then they'd fly home and then fly back. So here we are, a couple years later, getting this on the town meeting agenda. So the bequest was made to the property, to the town for the property at 63 George Ryder Road. The property consists of a house that's there. There may be other improvements on the site. The property was given to the town with the express desire, or restriction actually, that the property be used for affordable housing purposes, and further, as the select board shall deem them to be in the town's best interest. So it's to be used for affordable housing. The exact way it's going to be used for affordable housing would be up to the select board. The will is also really clear that there's no condition that would restrict the town from removing structures or renovating structures or moving structures. There's nothing, precious in the will about like keeping it as is at the time of the bequest. The language that was added to the motion actually also authorizes the town to convey or lease the property, and further to authorize the town to accept and or convey affordable housing restrictions on the property. And that was added because it's possible that the town, through the select board, may choose to retain the property. It's possible that the town and the select board will choose to sell the property. And in order to further dispose of it, we need this authorization. So that's the section that was added by town council.
Okay, so this is the property of the late Pat Ford, who I believe served on the Housing Authority. Is that correct? And she was a great advocate for affordable housing in town. And she's left her property, and whoever drafted this will, I think, had in mind 127 Old Harbor Road, because it's very explicitly and abundantly excludes the types of restrictions that were on that property. So, Corey, you had a comment or question?
Yeah, I remember Pat making a comment how she wanted to take this action toward the town. She was very passionate about providing this opportunity, and she went through, the process of putting this, giving this, the town an opportunity. I guess this is the point where we have these conversations about what our intent is, because we're looking at the open language that allows, the structures to be torn down, renovated, whatever. But then we have this new language that just got brought in tonight that was not in our packet. Because for all transparency, in the Dropbox, I think we are all aware that the town has been approached to sell this property at market value.
That's what you have.
Yes, we have. It's in the letter, it's in the Dropbox, right, to, that little box to the left of there's been correspondence from a party who has shown interest in it. They are willing to pay market value for it. Obviously, we don't own the property, so we don't have anything to respond to them for. I mean, we don't respond, but we're not in a position yet. Once we take this action, then we could probably respond to them yea or nay. But I just want to be clear of what's on the table. My sentiment is this parcel was meant for affordable housing, structured, whatever. The contemplation of selling it, I don't think, and at least my interpretation is what Pat was thinking. But I guess I just want to put this on the table now before we move forward. But these are the facts that are on the table now, the pieces of the puzzle we're going to be working with. And if we are contemplating selling it, let's have the conversation now, because there is a party, at least one party, that is interested.
I think that the will was broad enough to, she says, I do not hereby impose any condition or restriction with respect to the preservation of any structures or improvements existing on the subject property. At the time of this request, the town may remove, renovate, alter, or reconstruct any such structures or improvements as it deems appropriate solely in furtherance of its affordable housing objectives. She says it's to be held and dedicated to the use by the town for such affordable housing purposes as the select board shall deem to be in the town's interest. You're right to raise the point, Corey. And I guess I would turn to town council on this, see if he has anything to offer about the language that he's proposing. I do want to mention one other thing. There's a $47,000 lien on this property by the state Medicaid.
42, I think it was 42, and then there's another $10,000
back taxes.
For under 60,000 to obtain a piece of parcel, that's a bargain. So I have no issues with the outstanding.
But there was a suggestion in the packet that could be paid for out of the Affordable Housing Trust, and we wouldn't have to go to the general revenues.
Possible. I think the 50 whatever $1,000 is a very reasonable fund that we could kind of clear up at some point to obtain the property. I don't have any concern with that.
Jay, do you want to just speak to the language that was added to the article about selling or conveying the property or imposing restrictions?
I added that language because very often, because we're not necessarily in the business of developing affordable housing, we will convey to an entity like Housing Assistance Corp. Or Habitat for Humanity, and they would do the development for us. And then ultimately, we may choose, even if we decided to develop it on our own or do an RFP or whatever, ultimately, someone may want to, we may not use it for rental purposes. We may want to sell it to someone with the affordable housing restriction on it. So rather than going back to town meeting, if that was a requirement later on, I figured we would add that allowance now. You're not required to, but we could do it all in one step now.
Well, I'm just looking at Corey's concern.
Can I
and the language that, I'm sorry.
Just to follow up, if I can,
ahead,
sorry. That addresses, basically on our packet on page 3, there's 3 kind of options of where this could go. And what you just spoke on addressed basically option B, this is my impression. But then we have option C that says, selling the property as is with no deed restriction, with the proceeds being transferred to the Affordable Housing Trust funds, which are required to be used solely for the affordable housing purposes. So the property itself, under these scenarios, could be sold at market value.
I don't see that by way of the language after
it's in
the underlined language in the article where we're stating that it's going to be for affordable housing purposes.
I'm referencing option C on page 3.
He's looking at Corey's looking at the memo in the
on our packet.
Yeah,
I'm trying to balance what's in the will versus what's in our packet for explanations.
Katie?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Gloria prepared the staff report. Town council wasn't involved in the drafting of the staff report, so I think that if, we may want to ask Gloria to respond to.
Sure, whomever, yeah.
Gloria.
Third option.
Sure. So yes, so this was, oh, thank you. I scrolled on my screen, but I couldn't get down to the, oh, that's the staff report, not the explanation. So the options are in the explanations too. So I spent a lot of time with town council on this, not Mr. Tallerman, but another attorney from his office. We spent a lot of time figuring out what the town could potentially do with the property, because it made sense to have all of our options laid on the table before we made a decision about accepting it. Just like we had to get all of the information about the liens. So through discussions with town council, and obviously through looking at the will, they did determine that we had really three options. So one of the options, of course, is we could retain the property. So we could accept the property, we could retain the property, and we could use it for affordable housing purposes. We could potentially develop a rental unit that could be, restricted to employee housing or something like that. But to me, the only reason it makes sense to retain the property is actually to keep it as a town rental. We would never retain the property, develop it ourselves, and then sell it. So you can retain the property, use it as a rental. The second option is you can sell the property with the intention of developing it for affordable housing. So you can tear the building down, you can renovate the building, you can build more buildings, you can do whatever you want, but basically you would be selling it to someone like Hack, as Mr. Tallerman mentioned, and they would be doing an affordable housing development project on that property. And then the last option also involves selling it, but in this case, we would sell it and not have an affordable housing deed restriction on that property. We sell it at market rate and take the money received from that sale and deposit it in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And that depositing it in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund would meet the terms of the bequest for affordable housing purposes. So we have those three options there, and two of the three options involve resale. And now I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but the Stepping Stones Road property, which we're going to look at next, when the town originally converted the use of that from school to housing, we actually had something in the warrant article that mirrors the language that was added here, which allowed for the use to be converted and then further allowed the select board to dispose of the property. So it's not unusual to add that language. I just forgot it in this, and our town council caught that and added it.
So if there is a sale at market, the party that buys it can do anything they want with the property. Doesn't have to be used for affordable housing or attainable housing or anything like that. But the proceeds have to go into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. That's the intent here. Does this language accomplish that, Jay?
My feeling, based upon the Warren article itself, is that if we wanted to include that as a possibility, I'd probably want to expand on this.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can reason to that conclusion from what comes later in that article, but I think you're probably correct that it would be best to, after the word "thereunder," add some language to express that.
I'd read the language as it stands right now to not have that option C. If we wanted to keep our options open with option C, I would want to be more clear on that.
Could you propose some language on the spot right now for that?
I could come back, I could, but I'd want to sit down with it and then come back to it.
The concept is that the proceeds would be
I would want to probably include some language or, alternatively, or
Okay.
Or in the alternative, the select board shall be empowered to convey the property at market value, provided that all such proceeds shall be dedicated for affordable housing purposes, and add that kind of language
Okay.
to it, and I think that would be fine. That's, as I read the article that was presented to me, which I then added on,
Okay.
I don't think it clearly says that is an option here. I would say we can either develop it under this language or sell it, but with an affordable housing restriction on it.
Okay,
So-
to try to move things along, we could have this revised and brought back to us next week, and then we could have that discussion that you're talking about, Corey, but whether we want to sell it or not, want to have the authority to sell it or not. Or we could vote on it tonight and subject to
Not in
town.
support of selling it for market myself. I think,
Okay.
I think the intent was, this is one of those things, I can speculate what Pat's, what Matt, someone else can speculate differently. This is one of those discussions, but I just want to have it early in the process, because we're now going to, I think it's wonderful that we get this piece of property. We got to figure out what is the best way to utilize it. So I don't want to overcomplicate it, but I just want to put all the pieces on the table so we understand what we're doing.
Well, we could have that discussion tonight, and if the vote is not to take it with the option to sell, then we would strike this, part of this language that's been added. I don't know what the pleasure of the board is tonight. Stuart, did you want?
Well, to be clear, Dean, I think that the language, it allows us to sell it, but only with an affordable housing restriction. So I don't think we would strike what I added.
Okay.
I think that language is
Exactly.
essential to allow us to sell to an entity like HAC or Habitat for Humanity, and that's a key component. And if you combine it with the said bequest language there, I think it's clear that we could only do so with the benefit of a restriction for affordable housing purposes. So I don't think you would have to strike anything to accomplish A or B. I think you would have to add something if you wanted to have the option for C. So I think
Okay.
if the board followed Corey's lead here and said, hey, I don't have any interest in going the market rate unit and then just pumping that money back into affordable housing purposes, then this does that right
Okay.
now. And keeps your options open fully for A and B.
Stuart and then Shereen. I think I had that order.
Well, maybe Jay answered my concerns, but I'd like to reiterate what Gloria had mentioned, that we keep our options as wide-ranging as we can. I agree with Corey that we want to be able to do that. I don't think I support that, but nonetheless, we should probably be able to do that. You've said, Jay, that, or Gloria, that this would allow a Habitat for Humanity type structure. I like that concept, so if it allows that, great.
Okay. Shereen?
Well, we also have the factor of the Affordable Housing Trust and their recommendations of what they would want to make on this property. So I feel like leaving the options open is probably the best course to take, because I think that as the trust itself develops its planning going forward, they'll be looking at many different scenarios with the property, as well as other, potential things that might come our way. So I'd prefer to keep it in, but I'm not gonna, be hardcore about it, but I think it would be best in giving the options to the Affordable Housing Trust to be able to work through whatever programs they want to do with this property.
So you're in favor of keeping option C available?
Yes.
Okay.
And that doesn't mean I approve of it.
Yeah.
But I think it's
You want to
an
leave
option.
it for
For for consideration with the trust and what they want to do with the property.
Jeff and then Corey.
Yeah, and as do I. I think keeping all the options open is a smart move. I just want to also recognize Pat and her generosity to the town and her vision of, and she was such an advocate for affordable housing. And so I don't want to forget that. And we won't mess it up. No matter what we do, we'll make sure that it goes to affordable housing in some way, shape, or form. So I don't know if we want to, I move to vote.
Well, I think Corey wanted.
Okay, but I
Something you wanted.
would move to place, thanks.
I'll second that.
It's been moved to place. Is there a second?
Stewart,
As
second.
is, or not, well, whatever
As
you want to
is,
place.
or with an additional
we have to
amendment to
decide that
allow
question.
option C, Jeff, I guess.
Okay, then we should include option C. I want to keep all the options open, so.
Do you want to see that before the
I think we should,
final
I think we
language?
should see it before we place and recommend.
Let's get a clean version.
Okay, good.
So, well,
All
let's,
set.
if it's the consensus of the board, we'll defer this to next week. We'll ask Jay to
Yeah, I'll
insert the,
I'll have language for you over
yeah,
the
and
next
we'll
day or so.
take a
So
look
I'll
at that.
work
We'll
with
preserve
Gloria on
option
that.
C.
Yep,
Okay,
Draw my motion.
okay, thank you. All right, next is, appropriation for the Attainable Housing Special Revenue Fund. This Attainable Housing, ownership housing at Stepping Stones Road. Gloria.
So before you see an edited version of this, and it's actually, you'll recognize the language that's being struck out. So it was originally added by town council, and now we're taking it out because, as I mentioned earlier, we've already enabled the town to dispose of the Stepping Stones Road property when the use was converted to housing. So we don't actually need that language in this article. So it was added in, and that's what's showing in your packet, and now we're taking it out because it's unnecessary. So that's the particular warrant article language. The warrant article is really for accessing those attainable housing funds that are to be used for attainable housing projects and purposes, programs, things like that. So those funds are derived from 1% of the short-term rental tax revenue. It's automatically placed into the Attainable Housing Fund on a quarterly basis, comes directly from DOR. So anytime we ask for an appropriation from this fund, first of all, it requires a majority vote at town meeting per the legislation that created that fund. And secondly, it's never going to put any kind of impact on the townwide budget because this is money that's already in a dedicated account. We can only spend what's there, and a certain amount is accumulated. Specifically for this project, it can also be used in the future for 127 Old Harbor Road. Your next article, you're going to see we're asking for more money from that fund for lease to locals. Anything that can go to support attainable housing development or programs can come out of this fund. So the ask is for 2.1 million. And I want to give you a little explanation for that. You may have seen the proposal that was submitted by HAC for the project on Stepping Stones Road. It's 14 homeownership units in 7 duplex buildings. So everything's a duplex. Each one has 2 units for a total of 14. In order to get that density on the site, we have to do a 40B. So 25% of those units, or 4 of the 14, are going to be affordable. The money that we're asking for will not go to subsidize those affordable units. The other 10 out of 14 units are attainable and will need a subsidy from the town because of the lack of state and federal funding sources available for ownership housing and housing at this income level. So the overall ask for HAC was 2.1 million. Proportionally, for 10 out of the 14 units, it's actually less than the 2.1 million. However, as we're going through the process of negotiating the LDA and as we're thinking about the things that the town might want, it's possible that the overall ask gets bigger. So there's about a $500,000 cushion to this ask of 2.1 million from the fund. And that's to cover things like if the town wants solar panels installed. The proposal didn't have solar panels. If we want them, that'll be an additional cost to the town. Things like that, so that we don't have to go back and ask for more money. Obviously, all of the money that's spent is going to be spent in proportion to the types of units. So if the overall expenditure for the project is 2.1 million, then 4 out of 14 4/14 of that will come from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund to cover the affordable units, and the remainder will be coming from the Attainable Housing Fund to cover the attainable units. Those two funds don't overlap. They each have their own purposes. They're each going to cover that. And if we don't actually use the additional funds that I'm requesting, if we don't go up to the 2.1 million, it'll be converted back into the fund.
So the cushion would be even greater if instead of 14 units, you had 12. I personally favor 14, but I know there's been some discussion on the board previously as to whether it should be 12. That will be worked out. But I still favor getting the 2.1 million just to cover ourselves, because the money, the difference between what is actually spent and what, and the 2.1 goes back and remains in the fund. So anyway, I'll just throw it open. Corey?
No, I was going to make a very brief comment, because, I mean, I think this project kind of panned out better than I expected to. You know, I am of the opinion, I think we should shave one of the units down, just not so much because I want to, in favor of eliminating any, opportunities. I think there's some site deficiencies that if we were to remove one of the units, we have some opportunity to address concerns that were brought up during the workshop, and that will be discussed further. So we'll see where that goes, but the 2.1 million in return for the units that we're going to get, I think is very, very, very reasonable. So I think this is really, a good investment in our community. I think it has some fine tuning to still do, but for 2.1 million, I cannot see not supporting this. I think we definitely move forward with this, so.
Shireen?
I was just going to make a motion because I
Sure.
think we're all in agreement on this. I move to place the warrant article requesting appropriation of up to 2.1 million from the Attainable Housing Special Revenue Fund to support the development of ownership housing on the town-owned Stepping Stones Road property on the 2026 town meeting warrant.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Call the roll. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dyken?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Is there a motion to recommend?
Motion to recommend.
Second.
Moved and seconded. We'll call the roll. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dyken?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Okay. Thank you, Gloria, on that. And we have the last one for you is the appropriation from the Attainable Housing Special Revenue Fund. This is the Lease to Locals program, which Shireen had proposed a while back. Turning to you, Gloria.
Okay, so no edits to anything on that warrant article. Town council reviewed it, it's fine as is. So what's in your packet stands. So from a funding perspective, this is exactly the same as the Stepping Stones ask. So it's coming specifically from a fund dedicated to attainable housing. It will not have an impact on the budget. I don't know how detailed you want me to get into this. Like, we just reviewed the Lease to Locals program just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I just
Go
wanted to ask a question. Does the program administrator, which would be part of the process here, would hire one, we might use I can't remember the name of the firm that the other towns are using, but do we have to have an annual appropriation for that position or that service?
So we would. So this is 1 year of funding for the program. It doesn't renew automatically. Every year we'll have to go and ask for funds from the Attainable Housing Fund to cover this. I think that realistically, the ask this year, which would cover the program administrator, the startup fees, and also the rental subsidy to potential landlords, up to 20 units. I think that we're not really going to hit those 20 units in the first year. I know that Eastham and Orleans didn't. They only hit 9 units. So I don't think that we're going to be using the full 312,500, but that amount would fund the entire program up to 20 units for 1 year.
Okay,
Move to place.
all right. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, call the roll. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Is there a motion to recommend?
Recommend, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Moved and seconded. We'll call the roll. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you, Gloria.
Thank
The
you
la-
so much.
The last item is the Cape Cod Regional Technical High School FY '27 operating budget and assessment. Jill, do you?
Yes,
wanna say
I can
anything
take that,
about this?
Mr. Chair. So, as you know, you had the business manager, Erin Orchid, come before the board from the Cape Cod Regional Technical High School on February 24th, and she provided the anticipated FY '27 budget. The school committee was scheduled to vote, but it happened to be the week of the blizzard where they were using the site as a regional shelter. So I spoke with her last week. She said that it is scheduled or rescheduled for the school committee vote on March 24th, but said that it's not changing since the presentation. So she expects it to be adopted as was presented to the select board. So
Go ahead.
so the warrant article in your packet has those figures of what the town's assessment would be.
We're going to have something similar with respect to the Monomoy, because they're not meeting until after we close the warrant also.
There's a meeting that's scheduled on March 16th with the
Okay.
internal finance team, and I think they're meeting that night with the select board. So what we do know is that if it does go down after the warrant's already posted, we're fine. There's no anticipation that it's going to be increased or higher than the amount that's in
Okay,
the warrant.
okay. I just wanted to point out in the explanation on this, there was one typo. It refers to 20 and then in parentheses 19 Chatham students, so it's 19. One student reduction. Is there a motion to place this on the warrant?
Under place.
And second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. I'll call the roll. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dyken?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Is there a motion to recommend?
I move to recommend, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Moved and seconded. We'll call the roll. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. All right, the final item on the agenda is to consider the release and approval of executive session minutes. These were the minutes that related to, of meetings that related to the recent decision on the town manager's contract extension and appointment. And there's a memo in the file. There were two sets of minutes. Kathy, did you want to speak to this? This memo essentially came from you, but that there were two sets, which I personally edited, and in the first set, they were drafted by the town manager because she took notes, and the second, they were drafted by Mr. Dykens, as he took the notes, and I reviewed and edited them, so.
Yes, that's correct. So as is practice, once the matter that is the subject of the executive session has been completed and is finalized, the board may decide to release those executive session minutes to the public. So what the board has before them are the two sets of minutes, and as that contract was voted, or the extension was voted publicly last meeting, that matter is considered complete, so the board is able to now release those minutes. The minutes, once they remain confidential until the board votes to approve and release. So once released, they will be posted both to the meeting where the executive session took place as well as to tonight's meeting, as an attachment to the minutes to tonight's meeting as well.
Yeah, customarily, we have approved executive session minutes in groups quarterly, but we're pretty well caught up. I thought it was important, given the subject matter, that we get these done quickly, and we're required by law to get them out. So is there a,
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve and release the executive session minutes of January 13, 2026 and February 17, 2026.
is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Stuart?
Sure. Thank you, Dean. I see that on the first executive session minutes, it states that Ms. Goldsmith submitted the minutes, that's at the end, and that Mr. Dykens did the minutes for the second set of the second executive session. That's my recollection of what took place.
Yes.
There's two things I wanted to point out that I made a point of. There were a number of things, but the two most important things were that I objected to the renewal of the contract due to the fact that it was coming earlier than has been typically done, and it was being done prior to the annual evaluation that I had not had an opportunity to participate in as yet.
Stuart, I'm sorry to interrupt you. We've lost connection to the Teams meeting, so. Thank you.
Okay.
I mean, I gotta
Interrupt
save
you here
it.
for a minute.
Is it the broadcast only, or is it?
We are working to restore the meeting. Currently, Chatham TV is resetting everything. So if you are online, please hold for a few minutes.
Bless you. Everyone should be off in there, they're going to bed or having dinner or having, no one's waiting for this.
No.
She heard, so she said that someone with her, it's Elaine, Michael, I'm not sure who Michael is, a guest and a guest, or the only public.
Who's Michael?
The rest are all staff.
How do we proceed if she can't get us back on? Just go ahead with the meeting and adjourn?
Sorry?
How do we proceed if she can't get us back on?
I think probably have to defer to next
Well,
week.
it says in the announcement that we make our best effort,
Right.
No, that's true.
so I think we can keep going unless we want to.
Or accessible by phone.
I don't want to wait.
Are we still accessible by phone, Kathy?
I would imagine so.
So you're, the broadcast, no one watching it on channel?
This happened when I was remote, and you can hear, you can talk to each other.
This one's different.
Oh, okay.
That one, the picture only went out, this one, the whole thing went out. So the people who are
Okay.
logged in can see, like, we can all talk to each other, but it's different.
So people who have logged in on the computer can see it.
There we go.
No, we can see there.
Looks like we're
Now
back. Are we,
We're back.
We're back.
okay. Wait for the high sign here. Okay, we're back. Stuart, you were talking about, you stated
Yeah.
something, you reiterated something that you had stated at either or both of these meetings.
Yeah, on the first executive session minutes, Ms. Goldsmith took the minutes and has submitted it, says that at the bottom of the minutes, and on the second set, the second meeting, Mr. Dykens took the minutes, and that's also stated in the, right here. I wanted to point that out. Lastly, I just wanted, there were a number of things stated at the executive session that, I know we don't capture everything, but I did want to point out that I objected to the renewal of this contract due to its timing being earlier than is normally done. It was being done before the election, and it was being done before I had the opportunity, or anyone else, to do an annual evaluation that is typically done in April. And That's all I had.
Did you want to, are you proposing that as an amendment to the minutes, or to both sets?
Yeah,
Okay, did,
because I said them, yeah.
yeah, do you want to suggest where you want to place that language?
In the first set of minutes, it can be done in the page 1 of the minutes at the bottom.
So you would add a separate paragraph?
Yeah, you can put it there, and then the second set, Mr. Dykens took the minutes. It could be done on the second page at the bottom.
Okay, the second page.
Could you clarify where on the second page at the bottom?
Sure.
Because I have a carryover paragraph, so I just want to make
Yeah, there's a
sure I'm in the right
carryover
spot.
Yeah, okay. Mr. Nicastro then requested the board consider compensation, and it can be, you could.
You want to have it after that paragraph
Yeah, that would be
as
fine.
a separate paragraph?
That would be the easiest thing.
Let's make sure we get the sentence, so,
Or might I, okay, because that's the vote where you oppose, so you want it following the vote or prior to the
no,
vote?
no, and it would be on page 3 of my version anyway, page 3,
Maybe after the first.
right after the first two lines.
Yeah,
It would be
yeah.
a separate freestanding paragraph, in one sentence, but a freestanding paragraph. Do you see that, Kathy?
So on my page 3, I have the very first paragraph is Chair Nicastro then requested a vote to approve the contract extension. Vice Chair Dykens moved to approve the
No,
contract.
it would go before that.
Okay,
It would go
so between the carryover paragraph
between the
and
carryover
Okay, thank you.
sentence and the, right, that's okay.
That's
Let's,
fine.
let's hear the sentence. I think we know the sentiment, but let's make sure we. Are you right?
Clerk Smith objected to the renewal of the contract due to the timing of the request being earlier than
Normally
normally.
done, and prior to the election and prior to the evaluation,
The annual evaluation.
annual evaluation.
That's okay. That's your sentence?
Yes.
Okay. With that correction, which Kathy will make, unless there is anything more, well, we have a motion.
Motion to approve.
It was moved and seconded.
Yes, we have a
it
motion and a
has.
second.
Or removed it.
Right,
You seconded.
Seconded by whom?
by me,
All right, and we'll include the language that Stuart added to both versions.
amending the language.
Excuse me. I'll call the roll on the approval and release of these minutes. Ms. Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Dykens.
Aye.
Mr. Metters.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you. I just wanted to point out the reason why I asked Jill to prepare the minutes for the 13th because she had, with my, either at my request or my acquiescence, taken the notes because I was running the meeting, so I didn't want to take the notes at the first meeting. In the second meeting, I had asked Vice Chair Dykens to take the notes, and then I asked him to draft the minutes. And I inserted, it's unusual to have this, but I inserted in parentheses, reviewed and edited by me as chair, because I wanted people to know that I independently looked at them. And that's fine, I just wanted to get that on the table. Okay, a final
Motion to adjourn.
motion for the meeting. Moved and seconded to adjourn. Call the roll. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We are adjourned at 8:54 PM. Good night, Chatham.